and they get ready for this American League Divisional Series against the Yanks. And the Chiefs are 4-0, and they get ready for the Saints on Monday night. Game 2 for the Royals on Monday night at the same time. It is an awesome time to enjoy sports in the Kansas City area, and we are living in that right now. But sports, that ultimate reality, because both games last night were won by a team that didn't seem like they were going to be the ones that won that game. The Mets did next to nothing the entire game until one of the best closers in baseball with a nasty changeup that, sometimes looks like a knuckleball when it's moving. I know Michael Walker's got a nasty changeup, but Michael Walker isn't coming like 97, 98 and then throwing a changeup that's got, 17, 18, 19 inches of run down and away from a left-hander, like just ridiculous, stupid stuff. And that guy had given up one home run in 57 innings, and he gives up a home run. Walks the first guy, by the way. Like, you're in trouble at that point. Like, you're up by 2. You walk the Lindor, and now the tying run's at the plate where one swing now ties it up. Like, you can't do that. We know about leadoff walks, but it's playoff baseball, and Pete Alonso, who has been struggling and slumping, and the Mets that went from no chance to make the playoffs, no fans in attendance in New York. What was it, like 6 or 7 games in? They showed the attendance at
they
first
were winless
pitch.
too, yeah.
Yeah, they were like 0-6, and the picture, there was like 5. You could almost like count the people in the outfield. It was that few at first pitch. It's not like, hey, look, there's nobody here. Dude, it's an hour before first pitch. Come on, chill. It was like first pitch, and you're like, 1, 2, 3, 4. It was crazy. And now they have more people there at the home of the Mets watching on TV, the big screen, than they had the 7th game of the season when the Mets were struggling for a playoff game that wasn't even there, and the Mets find a way to get it done. And baseball is just crazy. Detroit was all but out of it. They had a .2 chance of making the playoffs. They were 10 games out on August 11th. 10 games out, August 11th, .2 chance of making the playoffs. They're now in the divisional series. The Royals were scuffling down the stretch. They're now in the divisional series. The Mets were talking about breaking up the entire team, trading Pete Alonso, trading Lindor, trading all these guys to start over. They're now in the divisional round of the playoffs. It's crazy what happens in the postseason, and it's not great to be the home team. I mean, the home team, I think I saw the stat from Sarah Lang's last night, and I don't know the exact number or what the time frame is, but in game deciding or elimination games, so for both teams, the elimination games, the home team is under 500, and I'll find the exact parameters, like the time frame once the Wi-Fi starts working around here. Just turn off the Wi-Fi. That's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to go ahead and use the old 5G and do that. But it doesn't necessarily pay to be the home team at that particular time because they've been under 500. Here it is. So, Sarah Lane's teams playing in their home ballparks all time. So there's your parameters. All time in winner-take-all postseason games, the home team is 62-66. All time in postseason history. In winner-take-all games, the home team is 4 games under 500. Just amazing. And we haven't seen the wild card series, Jack, go 3 games. This is now the 12th. So there have been 12 wild card series that are 3 games. So 3 years, 4 of those series, 12 games. It's been 10 of them have been 2-0. Only 2 have gone to the 3rd game. It's crazy what we're seeing. And it's like crazy and not at the same time because it's baseball. Yep. And I can make a pretty strong case that if we went through, Jack, and said, okay, so they bunt Mullins over in the 3rd inning of game 1 with McCann, with Henderson up against Reagans. If they don't pitch to Bobby Witt with 2 outs and a guy who had 2 at-bats since August 29th and Vinny Pasquantino on deck, if MJ does not make an improbable catch in left field after missing an easier play, but makes an improbable catch, if that would have been a leadoff double or triple, depending on how the ball would have ricocheted and bounced around. If Massey doesn't literally save a run by making the diving play up the middle, right?
Yep.
If Bobby doesn't come through, or if Westberg throws to second base instead of trying to throw to first base. Like, these are a lot of ifs, right? But those are game-changing plays that we don't know at the time. We don't know at the time that those are going to be difference-making plays. And doesn't it feel like all of them went the Royals' way, except for maybe the squibber out in front that Lugo misplayed?
Yeah.
That loaded the bases with nobody out. But they didn't get a run. They didn't get a run out. Like, it felt like every play, Jack, in a 2-game series, the Royals ended up making the play. And that's the difference between us talking about the Royals and the Yankees and the Orioles saying, okay, we found a way to get it done. Now let's go play New York.
Well, it's such a small margin of error for everybody in the postseason. I mean, the viral thing going out there this morning, though this isn't pertaining to the Royals and the Orioles, Devin Williams last night apparently was tipping his pitches.
I saw that.
Yeah, John Boy had a breakdown that when his glove was closer to his chest, he was throwing a changeup. And hitters pick up on that. And in this Royals and Orioles series, not that there was any, pitch tipping or anything like that, but you just look at little moments, little things here and there that dictate the outcome of the game. I mean, the one that honestly, in my mind, confirmed that the Royals were going to be the team that won the series was on the bases loaded situation with Adley Rutschman up at the plate, and Bobby Witt Jr. has the short hop pick and is able to throw out Rutschman by 4 or 5 feet. It was just a perfect all-around play. But moments like that were showing that not just the routine plays, not just the good luck plays, it was these extra effort plays, these really tough plays that they were able to make. The Massey play up the middle, it was eerily similar to what Jordan Westberg had.
Yeah.
But whereas Massey, when he got the ball, he knew where each runner was. And remember, we'd seen Massey a couple times in the regular season make the boneheaded play.
Yes.
He would go to second base, and then it was a bad throw. And then in this series, he looked quickly to second, knew he wasn't going to get him, threw to first base. Whereas Westberg got up slowly on the play, and then
had to check his glove to see if he had the ball for a second.
And even then, I think you have to realize who's running to first base.
No chance.
And you go, well, even if he gets to second base, I sure as hell ain't getting Bobby Witt Jr. at first base. And those are those little things. Those are those moments where who's locked in, who's really not locked in, who panics when they get the ball, who does not. And so many times in that series, mainly on the infield. I thought the Royals' infield defense was phenomenal, whereas the Orioles was a little bit suspect, except for Seth Lugo's play. But even then, that was Seth Lugo trying to make the extra effort play. He botched it because he wanted to go down to second to keep the double play in order. But the Orioles, it just felt like with all those extra effort plays, they couldn't make them. And the Royals, by getting the benefit of the doubt on some of the good luck plays, with getting line drives hit right at them, MJ Melendez kind of just sticking his glove out there and catching it. You get those plays, but then it's who's making the plays that change the outcome of that game. In Game 7 of the World Series, Joe Panik's double play ball on Hosmer. That ball gets through, the Royals probably win. And I'm sure the Orioles are thinking on Ryan O'Hearn's ball that got knocked down by Massey, that gets through. I think the Orioles get 2 or 3 runs in that.
Well, and going back to Game 7 of the 14 World Series in that the Panda, if Infante doesn't slip in short right field in the wet grass, the dew, as he's planting, he slips, and that guy, gets an infield single because Infante, the ball has no juice on it as he's slipping and throwing, and he beats it out. That was the winning run. That guy came around and scored the winning run. That was the first out of the inning. It was an easy play, and just one of those things to where a man plants his foot and slips, and then that guy scores. Like, we look back and go, at the time I felt it pretty ominous, like, oh no. These are one of those things that, sometimes get you where you're thinking about it, like the D Ford offsides. Like, I remember tweeting about it after that play was over when they reversed it, and I said, God, I hope this doesn't become the D Ford offsides game. And it became the D Ford offsides game, unfortunately for him, in that play, in that moment. The Game 7 of 14, the memories that I have in my mind the most is the Infante slip, the Gordon triple, and the Salvi pop out. Like, those are the 3 things that in my mind are just like emblazoned there that I remember vividly. There's so many things from that game that I do not remember that somebody might go, oh, I remember this play. Nope, no clue. Don't even know what you're talking about. Did that guy, Alex Gordon, did he play in the game? Don't even remember. Except for the triple. Sorry, that was a bad example. But, those are the things. And, like, you talk about the Adley Rutschman at bat with 2 outs. It's not even the hit. When I knew they were in trouble offensively was the 2-0 pitch.
Yes.
Bases loaded, 2 outs, 2-0, and Zerpa throws 95, middle. and Adley Rushman just sat there with a bat on his shoulders like it weighed 50 pounds and wasn't even thinking about swinging. And the next pitch was a breaking pitch, and he swung at it. Like, okay, he's lost, and this entire team, because Santander popped it straight up, trying to hit a 7-run home run. Colton Cowser, I'm swinging no matter what, and I break my hand while swinging at a pitch that was going to hit me and drive in a run, the winning run, the lead run, and instead I strike out. 2-0 pitch, bases loaded. I watch middle 95. Batting practice, go right down the middle, and I'm 1-1. I'm the pick 1-1. 1-2 is out there at shortstop, and I end up grounding out right to that guy, and they get out of it. At that point, I'm like, if the Royals get one more run, this game's over. They need one run. This game is over because that team is going to remember they had bases loaded and nobody out, and they had 3 or 4, 5, 6 coming up, right? Or 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, it was
3 because Cowser was batting 4th.
Yeah, yep.
So 3, 4, 5. Santander 44 home runs. Cowser Rookie of the Year, and Adley Rushman 1-1, coming up with bases loaded, nobody out, and they got no runs. At that point, I'm like, one run wins it. One run for the Royals wins this. It's over, and the Royals will win it, and they did. Like, that was the moment for me. I'm like, this team is toast.
Well, you know, if you're a superstitious person, the
Little
baseball gods,
stitious.
yeah,
Little
stitious. Baseball gods, if you believe in baseball gods, they punish you for not cashing in on golden opportunities to score. I mean, the Royals in the top of the 5th inning
Yes, I was gonna say
load
the
the
same
bases on a hit by pitch and a 4-pitch walk,
Yeah.
and here comes Melendez, and a guy's all over the place, and you don't drive in a single run.
Well, it was 6 straight balls, and he swung at the first pitch.
Yeah, I mean, it's
and
just
and the first pitch wasn't even a fastball. It
Yeah.
was a sweeper.
Mhm.
Like, hold on, dude. You 6 straight balls. Like, you swung at the first pitch. Like, if it was middle fastball, I get it. You know,
crush it. Yeah.
just kamikaze, just attack him, right? No, it was a sweeper, and you swung over the top of it. What are you doing? But anyway, go ahead.
And that's why the pitching coach comes out to the mound and goes,
Yes.
this guy is 0 for the last century.
Yeah.
Throw him this pitch. He's probably going to get too eager and swing because he knows you've missed with 6 straight and you can't fall behind. But then what happens in the bottom of the 5th inning? Cedric Mullins comes up, and it wasn't immediately, but it was 0-2. And then when it got to 3-2, I said, this is going to be a gapper, this is going to be a walk, or this is going to be a home run. There's only 3 outcomes here.
I thought for me, I had 4 outcomes. I was thinking along the same lines as you, but I thought, man, I just hope he hits it hard right at somebody.
Yes.
Because he's going to hit it hard. Mullins was the only guy in the lineup that worried me in those 2 games. He was locked in.
So he came close to 2 home runs because he
Yeah.
had the one off the wall against Reagan's in game 1. But you have that situation, and then everything unravels. What happens after the home run? Ramon Arias has a bloop single to center. What happens after that? He walks Gunnar Henderson. Gunnar Henderson glares him down and bat flips. Then the swinging bunt, Lugo botches it. But then, after the Royals get out of that, what happens? They have an opportunity to score. Brandon Hyde uses like 3 pitchers in that
Yes.
inning. And then how do they score? It's an infield single using their legs. That's just what baseball gods do when you don't cash in on golden opportunities.
Yeah, I forgot about the Gunnar Henderson walk, stare down, flip his bat. Like, okay, badass.
Over 7 with
Yeah.
4 strikeouts or 3 strikeouts.
But you did have that one walk. Cool. Nice job. Hey, folks, I'm going to be at Mod Pizza today from 4 to 6. So come check it out. I'm at Lee Summit Mod Pizza. It's over by off Chipman Road. By 470 and 50 Highway is the location I'll be at today. They've got their BOGO. Buy one pizza, get one free today from 4 to 6 at Mod Pizza. You can give any of the 7 KC area locations a try. You can go to modpizza.com to learn more about the unlimited toppings, one price. The UTOP, not UTEP, UTOP. Unlimited toppings, one price. That's what makes their product so unique, and the value that you get with that, it's predictably fast, predictably great, on time, individual size. You can get whatever you want, create your own. They got the other cool, pizzas ready to go for you as well that you can just pick from. I always do the create your own because it's unlimited toppings, right? I mean, it's cool to have like the different, the Jasper and the different ones that they have, but in the CBR, but go ahead and create my own because I can put as many toppings on it as I want. It's one price. I'll be at Mod Pizza Day in Lee Summit. They got the buy one, get one, getting you ready for some high school football, getting you ready for some baseball and some football coming up this weekend. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, continue rolling. More Zone next. All right, we continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. We'll talk with Matt Derrick coming up in the 11 o'clock hour, talk some Chiefs football. We'll hear from the Kansas City Chiefs today. Dave Tobe, Steve Spagnuolo, Matt Nagy, Chris Jones. We'll hear from the Kansas City Royals today. They'll have their press conference this afternoon while we're on the air. That'll be Bobby Witt Jr., Michael Wacha, Salvi, Matt Quattrero getting ready for the American League Divisional Series matchup against the Yankees. We know Game 1 and Game 2, it is Michael Wacha versus Garrett Cole. Game 2, it is going to be Cole Ragans versus Carlos Rodon. Game 3 is TBD versus TBD. I'm guessing that's going to be Lugo versus, well, it's Lugo versus Heel or Clark. And I think they said the reason that it's sort of TBD, I don't know why it's TBD for the Royals, like Lugo's going to go on Wednesday. I mean, doubt it's going to be Singer. So Lugo would be going on Wednesday. Do you think it's...
The only pushback, which I feel like is still such a slim possibility, if the Royals somehow took 2 in New York, if you would say, not that it's a cushion game, but you could throw Singer or Lorenzen in Game 3, save Lugo for Game 4 in case you lost, because if Lugo goes Game 3 and you're up 2-0, you lose...
Then come back with Wacha Ragans.
So then, yeah, I'd be fine. So
Wacha will be.
I keep forgetting it's going to be a week since Lugo's last start, so he should go.
So Wacha and Ragans, when they go Game 1 and 2, will be perfectly for regular rest for Game 4 and Game 5. So then Game Lugo 1 to Game 4, and then Game 2 to Game 5 is both of those guys 4 days in between their starts, and so they would both be pitching on regular rest. But it also means that Garrett Cole and Carlos Rodon are going to both pitch twice. So you got.
I bet it's Heel and Lugo then.
I think it is too, because they said Clark. The Yankees not announcing a pitcher makes sense because they have said if something happens in Game 1 or Game 2, Clark would be the one that comes in early. So if the Royals tomorrow start hitting around Garrett Cole and Aaron Boone goes, all right, we got to get him out of there, Clark's coming in to pitch. Therefore, he wouldn't pitch Game 3. But if Cole and Rodon go through pretty well and get 6 or 7 innings, then there's a real decision to make about who do they throw. Because, they could throw Clark, who's been pretty damn good, or they could throw Heel, who's been really good this year and had some spotty, starts from time to time, but he's been really good. The Royals do not necessarily have the starting pitching advantage in this matchup. Garrett Cole hasn't thrown a lot of innings. He's thrown like 95. Carlos Rodon has thrown a lot. And so we'll see what ends up happening. But it does help that the Royals won on Tuesday and Wednesday because Michael Wacha didn't have to pitch Thursday, and we wouldn't be discussing are they going to start Singer or Lugo or Singer or Ragans on short rest. Is it going to be Ragans 3 days rest, who only had 80 pitches? Is it going to be Ragans short rest or Singer in the Bronx? Who are you going to go with in Game 1? I'll take Ragans. If Ragans pitched Friday, I'll take my chances with him on Saturday. But they don't have to worry about that because you do have Wacha going, an experienced postseason guy. You got him going tomorrow against the Yankees. Rashee Rice was placed on IR. I'm going to talk to Matt Derrick about this because my read on this situation is I think Rashee Rice being placed on IR yesterday is actually good news because every single game counts. If they waited until Tuesday to put him on IR, well, you got to miss 4 games regardless if you're on IR. No matter what type, there's no retroactive. there's no Major League Baseball retroactive IL. You put the guy on IR, he misses 4 games. 4 games, not 4 weeks. 4 games moving forward, starting then. So if he misses 3 games, you put him on IR. Now he's going to miss at least 7 because he's got to miss 4. So that's how the IR works in the NFL. I think most everybody probably do that, but just in case. But the point being, they put him on IR yesterday and not, well, let's wait and see the extra tests next week. Then we'll decide if he goes on IR. To me, the positivity, the optimism that I get from this is by putting him on IR right now, Jack, doesn't it feel like there's at least some thought that, hey, let's get him on IR right now because if it's great news, he could be ready in like 5 weeks. So we don't want to delay this if he's good to go 5 weeks from now. Let's put him on IR right now. And if he's out for the season, who cares? It doesn't matter. And the one other caveat to this is the Chiefs have not been playing with full 53. They've already got a couple of spots open on their roster. So they didn't have to put him on IR to free up a spot. They could have had him on the roster and then still brought somebody up from the practice squad, signed somebody else to the 53 if need be, because they aren't playing right now with a full 53. So there wasn't a need to expedite the process. But they did anyway without having the full knowledge of what's going on. I do find that to be, maybe it's a conspiracy theory, but I find it to be a more positive sign, and maybe I'm searching or grasping there. But what do you think of that?
I think it can be seen as a positive sign because also what's the harm? If you put him on the IR, you find out in 2 weeks he's out for the year. He's out for the year. Mm-hmm. Nobody thought Rashee Rice was going to be available this week. Probably not the week after that or the week after that. I mean, even if you're talking about, let's say, I don't want to speculate on any injuries, but if it was a 3 to 4 week absence, okay, well then the IR is 4 games there. He would be back after the 4th game. If it comes back in the 2nd or 3rd game, well, we got additional testing done. He's actually not going to be available. Then okay, then he's out for the year. But to me, this does show that there is maybe a slim chance that they believe, maybe like the Pacheco injury, hey, toward the end of the year, we can get him back. But there's so much unknown about this. That's why it's been such a difficult thing to cover. But right now, because it's been, 4 to 5 days since the injury, we still haven't gotten word if he's out for the year or not. So just hearing the placeholder thing is, hey, let's put him on the IR. I got no issue with it because I didn't expect Rashee Rice to be playing in the next 4 games anyway. So wait for additional testing, get all the necessary info, and then we'll probably get the official word on it, hopefully sometime next week.
So I don't have the conspiracy theory. Conspiracy theory wasn't the right word. It was more grasping at straws is what the terminology I was looking for there. I was thinking conspiracy theory because Mike Florio at Pro Football Talk has put out a conspiracy theory, let's call it that he is saying that the Chiefs might be playing this more close to the vest and a little more cloak and dagger with this thing because, quote, what I believe, parentheses, what I've been told, quote, it's from Mike Florio. It's not me saying it. Mike Florio, quote, what I believe, parentheses, what I've been told, quote, is that the lawyers for Rashee Rice might be trying to hurry up the legal process in Dallas and plead out so that the legal process takes its course so the NFL can then suspend him while he's injured and the Chiefs are not announcing anything or saying he's out for the year so that he can serve the suspension while he would have been out for the year and injured anyway. Sounds great in theory. Okay, sounds good in theory. I don't know who he's talking to or saying that could be the case, maybe. But here's what he's missing. If Rashee Rice is out for the year, there's probably surgery involved, correct? He's not going to be out for the year and it's just rest and rehab.
Yeah, it has to be surgery.
Yeah, he'll have some surgery if he's going to be out for the year. So what he's alleging or offering as a possibility is that the Chiefs would delay surgery until Rashee Rice's suspension is over, which could be the rest of this year and on into the postseason, that they would delay surgery until maybe February for his knee rather than have surgery in October. You're talking about an extra 3 months when we're discussing 9 to 10 to 11-month timetable for guys to return. Would the Chiefs do that? That doesn't sound very smart. It sounds like, okay, he'll get the surgery done. He's out for the year. He's going to be suspended next year. So while he's still recovering and getting back into football shape, Charles Omenihu-esque, we could sort of fudge a little bit there that he's ready to go and he's going to play. He's not even on the PUP list. He's going to play. Oh, wait, he's suspended for 8 games. Darn it. Now he's got to be on the active roster. We'll carry him on the active roster. He won't get paid. He won't get those game checks. But it's dismissing the fact that to do that, the Chiefs would have to delay surgery if he's out for the year, which they wouldn't do. That just, either he's healthy and can play and he gets suspended, or he's not healthy, can't play, and doesn't get suspended. And he's suspended next year. It's just, it's an absurd level of Mike Florio of the, hey, listen, Jack, it's on the Chiefs' radar that Andy Reid could be thinking about retirement one day. A man in his 70s. One day will retire. It's on their radar that they're going to be doing that. It reeks of that from Mike Florio, that this conspiracy theory will be there, that the Chiefs are going to play it this way and the NFL wouldn't know. And Roger Goodell would just be like, hook, line, and sinker, got me. I had no idea he wasn't going to play this year, and he was injured and out for the year. We suspended him anyway. Oh, dadgum, Chiefs got me again. Like, it's just so dumb to even think about that would be the case. That's why the Chiefs are not announcing anything or saying he's torn his ACL or out for the year, is because they're going to try to expedite the process in Dallas so he can get suspended now.
I don't even know with the surgery thing you threw in there. I don't know how this could make sense as a conspiracy, because now you're endangering the player's health long term, right? If you have a serious injury and you say, well, let's try to sneak one past the NFL here so that we can serve your suspension while you aren't actually going to play, well then, okay, we're waiting for this knee to heal, which needs surgery, by the way. Yeah. It's not like it's going to start healing, feel better, then, oh, the surgery is very simple. It's not. You're just having a damaged knee on a, 24-year-old right now for an extended period of time. Then if you served your suspension, you get to February and go, well, we'll have the surgery now. Okay, so the recovery time then gets a lot more complicated. And even if he didn't have a suspension, right, he served it while he was fake injured or, really was injured and it was a fake situation.
Fake healthy.
Fake healthy. There you go. Fake healthy. Who knows how that recovers then? Because I would feel like with ACL injuries or some type of devastating knee injury, you need surgery now. You need surgery within a couple of weeks. You can't just let that thing go and then have surgery months down the road, because I don't know what that recovery process would look like. I would expect for an athlete of his caliber, an explosive athlete, you need that knee to heal properly, and going about it in that way would be the most absurd thing I'd ever heard medically for a football player.
It's crazy. He's such a vital part of their team and their offense, and he's got 2 more years on his contract. You're going to risk turning that knee into an arthritic knee and a chronic injury to save 6 to 8 games of a suspension for the beginning of next year, not even during the postseason. The first 8 games of next year, first 8 to 10 games, whatever it might be of next year. So he's available then the second half and then the postseason. What do the Chiefs care the most about? The second half and the postseason. That's what this team is built on, is what happens in the playoffs, not what happens the first 8 weeks of the season.
Well, you look at it this way, too. They're 4-0 so far, and losing Hollywood Brown and Isaiah Pacheco, they clearly feel like they can weather the storm of injuries. And also going into next offseason, let's say Rashee Rice serves his suspension then, the first 6 to 8 games of the year. Who's to say they don't go out in free agency or trade for somebody next year to give them that upgrade while Rashee Rice is out? Yep. Because the first 6 to 8 games, hell, the Chiefs could go 4-4 in those 8 games, and I think everybody here in Kansas City would still have confidence they're making it to the postseason, and they would have Rice for the long haul. So to play it like this right now when you're still undefeated would be absurd to me. Yes. I don't see the logic in it.
All right, next time we talk will be Monday.
Correct.
Are the Royals up 1 or down 1 getting ready for that Monday night game? Now the game is starting at 17:38.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Kansas City
I'm
time.
going to say, because of their numbers against Cole, I think they lose on Saturday. I want to be optimistic, but also Garrett Cole at Yankee Stadium with his postseason numbers, that's going to be a tough one. But all they need to do is win one of those 2 in New York, and they get 2 playoff games in Kansas City. So I don't think this will be a sweep. I'd imagine the Royals will get at least 1 in the first 3, hopefully 2, and put the Yankees on the brink. But we also have to acknowledge how damn good this Yankees team is.
Yeah, I want to put it out in the ether, in the world, in the atmosphere, that, they're going to be 1-0. But this seems like a rough matchup. It seems like a rough matchup. Reagans and Burns felt very even. That could go either way, and we saw that it ultimately did. This seems like a pretty decent matchup in the Yankees' favor. I think it would be tough sledding for them to, if they get the win on Saturday, I feel amazing about this series, because I don't feel good about that game.
Yep.
I felt great about games 2 and 3 in Baltimore and 50-50 about game 1. I don't feel as great about game 1 in New York. We'll see. But the Yankees haven't been playing playoff baseball for a few weeks.
It could be a little bit rusty.
Yeah.
That place is going to be if you like playoff atmospheres, Yankee Stadium's going to be unique on Saturday.
Yep, absolutely. We'll take a timeout. Jack, appreciate you, brother.
Of course.
On the other side of the break, it'll be Lee Sterling and Todd Lebo hanging out, getting you set for the weekend's worth of games. And then we will hang out with Matt Derrick in the 11 o'clock hour. 41 is the Mike Podcast, Chiefs Digest. And then we'll hear from the Chiefs press conference, Royals press conference, Kendall Gammon, Sad Fans Chargers, Sad Fans Orioles, all to come here on Sports Radio 810 on a Friday.
Who's going to win and by how much? You're about to find out from national sports handicapping champion Lee Sterling on The Zone. Log on to ParamountSports.com or call toll-free 800-400-9741 to get started.
Welcome back into this Red Friday on The Zone. Todd Lebo here with Lee Sterling from Paramount Sports. There's so much stuff going on in the world of sports, Lee. We got baseball playoffs going for the Kansas City Royals. We got the Chiefs are red hot. But there's more than that in October for Paramount Sports. You guys cover it all.
We're hot. I mean, last weekend we hit our 45-unit best bet and 67 and 24 now on our 40 to 50 unit max wagers. So if you're waiting, don't wait much longer. I mean, this is it. I mean, we call it not October, we call it Locktober. 4 weeks of games from tonight all the way through Thursday, October 31st, and you're going to get like 9 to 14, 9 to 15 games a week. There's games every single night for, I think it's like 45 straight nights in football. Not $4.97. If you use in the checkout, then the coupon code, put in SAVE 200 in that box. It takes it down to $297 for 4 weeks of action. We're red hot. You want to hop on board Locktober. Also, baseball playoffs through the World Series. We've started off hot there, and you can get that for $77 through the World Series. And also UFC. We've got a UFC pay-per-view card from Salt Lake City Saturday night. Last week we hit a plus 300 inside the distance on Moicano. He ends up getting a stoppage after the second round. Plus 300. If you wagered 100, you got back $300 profit. We won on that card. Normally it's $77 or $97 for a pay-per-view. We're doing for $7. That's right, $7, and it's an immediate download. All those specials up and available, ParamountSports.com.
You got to get in it. Locktober is underway. Let's talk about some games. Nebraska Cornhuskers be at home this week against Rutgers. They're a 7-point favorite. Nebraska's had a great year so far. They had that Friday night loss at home a couple weeks ago, but are they back on track now?
I think they're improved, but the problem is they're playing a team that's almost exactly like Illinois here. Love the way Greg Schiano coaches his team and his staff. You know, they have an extra day also to prepare for this game. I think Nebraska's better, but still, key penalties, slow starts have hurt this team, and this Rutgers team is undefeated here. Also, 3-0 against the spread here versus Division I opponents this year. You have a team that, just like I said, Illinois won outright at Nebraska, taking points, run heavy, so that means less possessions. I think Nebraska escapes 26-23, but I'll take the touchdown here.
All right, we've got Iowa State. Real quiet here. Iowa State, they've got that Cy-Hawk trophy with the long field goal, but they've been pretty impressive winning their other games easily. But they're a big favorite at home against Baylor.
Oh, you got to give them credit going to Iowa, winning that game. They've been doing it with defense. Their defense is locked down. They've only allowed 29 points in the 4 games. In fact, 7 points over the last 2 games. They run that unconventional 3-3-5 defense, probably run that defense, which more and more teams are employing, maybe better than anyone in the country here. Baylor, what's going on there? I mean, I really thought that Dave Aranda was going to be the guy, make them consistently competitive. Right off the bat, he did the first couple years, but they have no quarterback, no running backs, no receivers with any type of explosiveness, and they extended him in 2021 through 2029. I know there's a lot of people looking up see what that buyout is there. And the Bears, 6-15 against the spread in Big 12 play since 2022, and already 0-3 straight up and against the spread. Iowa State, they'll just keep rolling here, 34-16.
Yeah, they've been really good. They're eyeing that Big 12 title game. All right, so someone who was eyeing the Big 12 title game when the season started were the Kansas Jayhawks, but they've lost 4 in a row. And now they're going out on the road at Arizona State. It's going to be 100 degrees out there. This is not what you signed up for at this time of year where you're in the Big 12. What do you think about this one? Can Kansas find a way to get back in that winning column?
I thought they were going to be much better than this. Their passing game just not good. Jalen Daniels just hasn't progressed as a passer, and just there's no there's no sync with this new offense and the coordinator. 0-5 against the spread this season. I mean, they're on their knees praying to get something going on here on offense. They're stuck in the 20s and just not able to support a typical Kansas defense here. I didn't think Arizona State was great after the 3-0 start, but they've got a bye here. Bye week can be beneficial to a team. In the last couple games, they had to play from behind. They take the lead, it's going to be even tougher for Kansas. I like Arizona State here, 30-24.
All right, let's talk to a little National Football League now. AFC West game. Denver, who was really impressive 2 weeks ago, but they won last week against the Jets. It doesn't matter how you did it, they got to win. The Raiders have been up and down. You got 2-2-2 teams. It's a very big game right here. Denver is a very slight favorite at home.
This game could be really ugly. I mean, you talk about two ugly games, the Patriots and the Dolphins in Vegas and Denver. I don't see any of these teams getting the 20 here. So you got to look at the under. But as far as the side here, the Raiders have owned this series. They have won and covered 10 of the last 11 games against the Broncos. Also, we know they're going to be without Devontae Adams. Max Crosby, game-time decision. If he can play, he'll do anything to play, and he's almost unstoppable. Bo Nix, 1 touchdown. That's it this year. 4 interception. The Raiders have showed to me that they can win without their 2 stars here. They also ran for a season high 152 yards last week. Vegas 13-12 over Denver.
I don't think either one of these teams cares if it's pretty. They just want to get wins.
No.
They want to get to 3-2 for sure and stay in contact with the playoffs.
Yep.
All right, the Chiefs continue to win. Devastating injury last week. Rashee Rice is going to be out for a bit. At least he's out definitely in this game. Who knows how long? It's not. Don't even think about him right now if you're a Chiefs fan.
Yep.
5-point favorite at home against the Saints team, who has been very impressive at times this year, but not overly impressive in some of their games. Chiefs always find a way to win these, but can they cover?
Yeah, another game where probably not going to be a whole lot of scoring. Kansas City is winning games straight up, but not covering many of these games this year, and they're going to face a New Orleans team. They got some problems on the offensive line, center and offensive guard. They're without their center, their offensive guard, game-time decision. They're not going to have a whole lot of success, but Kansas City, you take away your best running back, Pacheco, your top 2 receivers, it just gets tougher and tougher here. So I'm going to take the points here. I think New Orleans might be able to hit on a couple big plays. They have a couple receivers on the outside that are dangerous. Olave, the running back, Kamara, playing hurt with a rib injury, but he still looks good here. I'm going to say Kansas City finally goes down here 20-17. Yep.
That won't make Chiefs
They're going to
fans
lose
happy.
eventually. You can't.
Yeah, they're not going undefeated.
Yeah. No.
Hey,
This might be that time.
Lee, you've got a free play for us like always, and you've got Locktober on steroids, basically, right?
Yep. So the free play is going to be Oklahoma State, West Virginia. Looks like on paper and the point spread a pretty close game, but I think there's a clear right side to this game. Anyone wants to get it for free. First 5 callers, call 800-400-9741. I will give you Oklahoma State and West Virginia on me, 800-400-9741. And this is the week. If you've been waiting for some reason, been trying it on your own or another service, who knows why, just come on board. We are on a roll. Looks like we might have a possible another 40 to 45 unit max wager whole month. That's right, through the 31st on our executive phone service, Locktober. Use coupon code SAVE200, just $297. And the baseball playoffs through the World Series, $77. The UFC card, $7. You heard me correctly. Everything's up and available. Let's start winning. ParamountSports.com.
All right, that's Lee Sterling from Paramount Sports. Get on board for that Locktober. More Red Friday coming up on The Zone on Sports Radio 810 WHP.
Do you guys run into each other at the Hy-Vee?
We have run into each other in the Hy-Vee. Yes.
Has either of you done the dad joke of, they'll let anybody in here, apparently?
We haven't done that yet.
Okay, yes, please
But
don't.
we have done the, hey, wait a minute, are you the guy from the podcast?
You got to.
We have done that.
It's got to do something. You can't just be like, hey, what's up, man? Good to see you, brother. What are you getting a little milk? Okay, cool, man. Hey, well, see you later. Big gulps, huh? No, it's got to be some sort of thing like, hey, are you that guy? You must be that guy. I can tell. I can picture. You're Stephen St. John, aren't you? I can tell. That happens. Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest. 41 is the Mike podcast as well. That comes out the day of the game.
Sometimes the day after.
Day after, that's true. I mean, it did come out the day after.
Might be 3 o'clock in the morning.
I was going to say it came out early Monday morning. I was on Sunday Sound Off, and I told Nick, I'm like, look, man, I drove into Sunday Sound Off, and there was no 41 is the Mike podcast to listen to. And he's like, yeah, I know. We've only had an hour between that game being over and now. We couldn't record it. I'm like, what do you want me to listen to then when I'm driving in to do Sunday Sound Off? So I can get all my takes. So I can listen to you guys and then steal them all.
But if you wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning after a Monday night game,
it's true.
4 o'clock on a Tuesday, you'll have a podcast.
That is true. Let's get into this Chiefs game. We got a couple of quick segments because we'll be hearing from the Chiefs later on today. It's a Thursday for the Chiefs, but a Friday for us. So let's start with just a takeaway from the win against the Chargers. It was a struggle. I feel like it's 4 weeks in a row where we say, yeah, you don't apologize for a win. There's a lot of non-apologies from the last couple of years for Chiefs fans and wins, but what's your takeaway and view? We'll get into Rashee Rice specifically and how that'll impact this team moving forward. News with that, by the way, quick aside, he was placed on IR yesterday, so I think there's an interesting, at least, angle and maybe a positive side of them placing him on IR yesterday. We'll get into that. But takeaway just general of what you saw in the game and the Chiefs winning.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like a broken record. You're right. I mean, it is. You don't apologize for wins in this league, and wins are hard to come by. Mm-hmm. So, any way you can get a win is acceptable. I mean, and you can't really blame the offense for not looking its sharpest after Rice goes down.
Yeah,
I thought that there were some at least good things in the second half. If anything that has really been, and the Chargers game was probably more example of this than anything else. It's been usually the Chiefs are really good on their script. Usually it's the first 15 that they really shine. And the first 3 games were probably a little bit better in that regard. Chargers game was just a disaster. And maybe it was the Rice injury, but the entire first half, outside the throw to Worthy, it was a real struggle in the first half. Second quarter was getting better. Second half was a lot better. Mm-hmm. And there were a couple of throws from Holmes that were more Mahomesian than we've seen in a while. Just him. Just with the confident strike. Yeah. There was one to Kelsey that I think went through about 15 defenders.
You guys talked about that. Speaking of the podcast, you guys talked about that. And at the time when I watched it live, I'm like, I don't know how he completed that. Then they showed the replay, and I'm like,
I still don't know.
That was closer than I even thought in real time of how close that was. I think the underneath linebacker didn't expect him to throw it. I think he was almost surprised that the ball was coming his way, and he was a little late to react. But, yeah, that was just – I'm out, instinct, trust my arm. There's Kelsey. I'm going to throw it. No thinking, they just throw it. And it hits him between the 8 and the 7, between 2 defenders. That's like a half-foot window for him to get it into.
But those are Mahomes' windows. Yeah, that's what he can do. And that's what Andy Reid said after the game, essentially, is, how does Mahomes get out of what? And what our definitions of slump for a quarterback.
That's true.
Goodness gracious. We are grading on a massive curve here because there are quarterbacks in this league for whom this would be a career stretch, being 4-0 with his stats. So we'll see if that leads to anything going forward. I think on the other side of the ball, defensively was once again the same thing. You've shut down an opposing team running back for the fourth game in a row. That's impressive, especially – I don't think that the Chiefs are doing anything differently than any other team in the league is doing. It's not like they're stacking the box trying to stop the run or anything. I think it's just that they're built to stop the run with their just base defense and sub packages. They're strong up the middle on the interior. You've got Nick Bolton. You've got a good linebacker crew, so you don't have a lot that goes past the second level. And obviously you've got safeties and defensive backs who are willing to tackle too. So that absolutely helps out against the run. But, it was the exact opposite for the defense. Chargers were best off their script. Their first 15 was fantastic. And then after that, it was as though they had just lost it. Yeah. Like they had just never run the rest of their game plan. And I mean, and the Chiefs were part of that. I mean, I think they made Herbert uncomfortable, created pressure, didn't get it, once again, not as many sacks as they would like to have had against an immobile quarterback, but they got the pressure that they needed. They made the plays. That was, I mean, I think it was in the first quarter, I'm trying to remember now, it's been a few days. It was a ridiculous number of yards. I mean, it was over 100 yards.
Well, it was 75 on the original drive after the fumble by Carson Steele, and then they went backwards a little bit on the field goal, but yeah, they picked up most of their yards in the first quarter, and really on the first drive.
That was the thing, is that they had more yards in the first quarter than they had for the rest of the game.
Yeah,
I mean that's a sign of a really good defense, and you just give up 10 points, even if it is against an offense that has a lot of injuries. It's what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, right, exactly. And that's the thing. It's like, well, they were missing their tackles, and Justin Herbert was injured, and they gave up 10 points.
Yeah.
So that's what you would expect. We'd be talking about something different if the Chiefs won 24-21, and it's like, yeah, they barely won, and they didn't have Joe Wald or, Slater. I keep calling him Ronnie Stanley for the last 2 weeks. I keep saying Ronnie Stanley, but
I of all people am not going to be talking about you calling anybody by the wrong name.
But Rashawn Slater, Joe Alt, Justin Herbert's ankle, which I'm still confused as to why they decided to play him in that game. I think they may have done more harm than good. Maybe set him back a week or so, and obviously he wasn't the same guy. But I will say, as a quick aside, he did earn some respect, some more respect from me. I was wrong in how I thought Justin Herbert would look in the NFL. I thought it would be closer to Josh Rosen than what he's looked like. I thought, what he looked like at Oregon was a lot of smoke and mirrors. He didn't look like somebody that was going to rally people around him. And look, he hasn't won a playoff game yet, whether that's him or Brandon Staley. But to go out there and battle through that, I know that ankle had to be hurting him. And to stay out there to get hit by Malik Herring, to get hit a number of times, and to still continue to play. He earned some respect from me. I'm glad he lost, and they continued to lose, but still, well done from Justin Herbert. So the defense playing like that, it's now 25 straight games in a row where they've given up under 28 points.
Unbelievable.
The last one was the Eagles Super Bowl. The Eagles Super Bowl, the last time they gave up more than 28 points. Is this just and this will lead into the Rashee Rice conversation, but knowing that Rashee Rice may be gone for a while, maybe the entire season, is this the new reality? Unfortunately, they are 4-0, so that's fortunately. But the new reality when over the summer we're thinking the offense is back, right? The offense is going to be fun again. And Patrick Mahomes talked about that he didn't have a whole lot of fun last year, and he can't wait for this year, and they're throwing the ball deep in training camp. Is this now the new reality of this season, which is the old reality of last season, that it's just going to be a continuation because of injuries and circumstances that have taken place? Is this now what we're going to watch with the Chiefs moving forward?
I mean, we'll see. And I don't know. I one question we probably haven't really asked Mahomes is, when was the last time you had the most fun? I mean,
second half against the Eagles, maybe.
Thinking of let's set aside the Super Bowls. Those were pretty. I think even last year he would have said the Super Bowl was pretty fun.
Right, so, exactly. Yes, the overtime or final drive in overtime.
Yeah, even when he says he didn't have fun last year. Okay, February, was fun.
Looked like he was having fun when he ran after McCole Hardman when he caught the touchdown. Looked like there was a lot of fun they were having at that point.
Yeah, but this is. really, 2018 he takes the league by storm.
Yeah.
And 2019 it got tougher, but since Super Bowl 54, it's been the most marked man in the league. Mm-hmm. This isn't just 1 or 2 years. This has been 5 years where the Chiefs have been getting everybody's best shot. And hey, Mahomes' numbers showing that. Even though he's got an MVP in there, and even though he's played extremely well, he hasn't been the Mahomes of 2018, and that will probably maybe that's never going to be the case again, because that was brand new Mahomes. He also had an inordinate of weapons at that time too, and even 2018 was influenced by the first half of 2018 with Kareem Hunt. You take out and that's the thing to me is that, if Patrick Mahomes ever has all the weapons again, and we'll see if I don't think that Kareem is going to be 2018 Kareem. I think he's going to be a good running back. But is he the difference between all of a sudden giving you an offense that averages 7 yards a play? I don't know about that. Mm-hmm. But if Mahomes ever got another young Kareem Hunt, just a third-round pick that is a guy capable of 2,000 yards from scrimmage, I mean, you're probably going to see Mahomes throw for 5,000 yards again. I mean, that's just.
And maybe 20 touchdowns.
I think it's always been hard.
Yeah.
It's just that he makes it look easy, and the last couple of years I think have been hard for him.
Is it as simple as and the last couple of weeks obviously are different, and the Chargers even more so, because the Chargers was the first game. Essentially, it's the first game. It was the first possession with the fumble, and that was it, because the first play of the second possession was the interception, and you lose Rashee Rice. So that Chargers game is the first game they have played without their number one, number two, and number one running back. So number one and number two wide receiver, number one running back. So you lose Hollywood, you go into the season without your number one. You've got Rashee Rice or number two, whichever one. If you want to say Rashee Rice, Hollywood, they're both out now, so there's no arguing of losing their number one and number two. Then you lose Isaiah Pacheco. We saw some struggles from Patrick Mahomes early on this year, but is it maybe as simple as the entire offseason and training camp was Hollywood, Rice, Pacheco, Worthy from time to time, Travis Kelce, all these guys working off each other? Hollywood goes down, Pacheco goes down, Kelsey's got all of the focus. Rice is now down. Like, is there an element of just like, yeah, who would actually look good if their top two wide receivers and their number one running back went down, and they've already had two different starters at left tackle so far this year?
There's a lot of teams, if not maybe 90% of the league, that you're talking about those scenarios, and they'd be lucky to be 1-3.
Yeah.
And they'd just already be tanking for whatever it is next year.
Yeah,
know what I mean? They'd
right.
already be talking about draft for next year.
You're talking about who are they going to trade? Can you get like a late round pick for somebody?
Yeah, I mean, and that speaks to. I mean, obviously, it speaks to two parts of it. I mean, one, it speaks to how good Mahomes is, that he's able to overcome that and still, have an offense. I mean, there's a lot of teams that have had to happen to them. They'd be averaging 13 points a game. But two, it also just speaks to how good this team is. That doesn't matter. I mean, they've still got a defense. They've still got guys around them, and and this is probably where I should have made this point in the last question. But I've been asked a lot this week is all of a sudden is this wide receiver room and this offense going to be like last year? And I can see that. I can see why, because now it's starting to look like some of the same suspects. I mean, now you're going to need probably Sky Moore to step up. You're going to need McCole Hardman to step up. Juju wasn't here last year, but you're going to need Juju to step up. But to me, the one difference, even though you had Rashee last year, which you're not going to have for now, and he obviously proved to be a big part of it, but that group last year didn't have Xavier Worthy, and that's the difference, because last year's offense didn't have anybody who could stretch the field. You do have that now. So I still think, two things are going to happen. One is that Xavier Worthy is going to have some big hits, and the more big hits that he gets, the more teams are going to be paying attention to him, and that's going to make things easier for everybody else. There was nothing last year that made that happen.
Yeah.
It was not easy for anybody last year. Wasn't easy for Kelsey because there was no other threat on the field. There was Rashee Rice, but Rashee was not a deep threat last year. I mean, the Chiefs kind of put him in the slot, and they did a lot of, short passes and just getting the ball out to him in space and letting him do some things. Worthy's a different type. So there's going to be a lot on him now. I mean,
well, and Mahomes has already shown, and he showed it in training camp, and that's where something that showed itself in training camp that I think has also been going on during the regular season, and that is Mahomes has been giving Xavier Worthy a chance. I'm going to throw it and let you go get it. He didn't throw it far enough against the Bengals, and Cam Taylor-Britt made an amazing play on that one. But in this game alone against the Chargers, the first play of the game, he was going to launch it down the right side to Xavier Worthy, who, by the way, the defender had a step and a half on Xavier Worthy and was already turning and running. That's one. Okay, so he was not past the defender. He wasn't even. If he's even, he's leaving. He wasn't even, and the defender already had his hips turned and was running, and Mahomes was still going to launch it if it wasn't for Joe Thuney getting walked back a little bit too far for Mahomes to feel comfortable. The play that was the 54-yard touchdown, and to your point about Xavier Worthy, when you said you've been asked if this is the same group as last year, my first thought is no, because last year, if they're playing cover 4, and you're at the 46-yard line, your own 46-yard line, Mahomes isn't telling MVS, hey, if that safety comes down a couple of steps, I'm going to throw it to you. No, they played cover 4 and gave up a 54-yard touchdown because of Xavier Worthy. That didn't happen last year. It wouldn't happen last year. Mahomes would never throw it. He wouldn't have got ready to throw it down the right side to Xavier Worthy on the first play of the game last year. It wouldn't have been to MVS or Justin Watson. That wouldn't have been it. He's giving Xavier Worthy a chance to just simply, I'm going to throw it, you run underneath it. And that's different from last year. That is a huge difference. That with even Xavier Worthy, what 2018 had in 2019, Matt, was it felt like every blade of grass had to be guarded and defended. It felt like at any time they could score a touchdown. It hasn't felt that way in a while. And with Xavier Worthy knowing he underthrew him to against the Bengals, but he took a chance. He, was going to throw at the first play of the game. Didn't work. You got 6 or 7 yards with a little outlet to Carson Steele after he had to tuck it. They did get the 54-yard touchdown to Xavier Worthy. Now teams in cover 4 can't just go, or cover 3 or just playing a deeper cover 2 can't just go, we're showing cover 4, he's not throwing it deep. I, as the safety, can come down and play a little bit lower and move forward towards the line of scrimmage because he's already decided he's not throwing it to that deep route. I don't have to be deeper than the deepest anymore because he's not doing it. Well, now it's on tape. He will do it, and they scored a touchdown on it. That's massively different than last year.
It is massively different, and and there's two things that it kind of addresses to me. I mean, one is that I've been getting the questions. I don't know about you, but I'd had the questions. Is something wrong with Mahomes?
Yeah.
Is something wrong with the arm and everything? So if the longest air pass of his career doesn't show you that there's nothing wrong with the arm, I don't know what to tell you.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with the arm. But the other part of it too is that. I think that throw to Worthy was probably, to me, the beginning of what we saw in the second half, like I talked about with some of those more confident throws and some of those just Mahomes just gunslinging it and being himself, because I thought that Worthy interception against the Bengals was, and he had a couple of other interceptions that were the same way, Mahomes was steering the football. And, I mean, any quarterback is going to tell you, and coach is going to tell you, if you're a quarterback and you're trying to steer the ball and you're trying to place it perfect in a perfect spot, you are guaranteeing that you are not going to be putting it in the right spot. Yeah. It just doesn't happen. You can't be perfect with the football. What you got to do, and what and Andy Reid, this is his philosophy, his response to receivers and his response to the quarterback is go for the green grass, throw the ball to the green grass, run to the green grass. You put the ball there, and you get it where only your guy can go get it.
They'd be screwed if they played in Boise. They'd be so screwed. They'd be confused.
Run to the blue grass.
Run to the blue. Run to the blue. Change the whole philosophy with that thing. There was a Twitter breakdown video of Mahomes, and I can't remember who did that. I'm trying to think. It may have been Orlovsky. I don't think it was Chase Daniel. But it showed, at certain points in the game, Mahomes wasn't trusting his eyes and trusting the play. There was one on third down to where he took the drop back. I think it was Watson on the right side, wide open, and Mahomes got ready to throw it and then tucked it. And then, now we don't know what he's seeing in front of him. Maybe he sees a helmet flash and goes, if I throw that, the harm's coming up. It's going to get knocked away. It's a bet, and then we're going to punt. I need to just tuck it and try to do something else. I think there's an element of that. But that wasn't the only play. There were a couple of others that were like, this is the read, this is the defense, this is what he sees before the snap, and he doesn't pull the trigger and throw it. I wonder if Mahomes talking to Worthy, because you said second half it looked better, and I agree it did look better. It almost looked like, all right, let me just throw the ball. I wonder if Xavier Worthy in that play was Mahomes saying to Worthy, if that safety comes down, I'm going to give you a chance. He saw it. His eyes told him what to do. He trusted it. He threw it, and they scored a touchdown. If maybe that changed a little bit of, all right, let me just get back into what I know and trust what I'm seeing and throw the ball, even if trusting what I'm seeing and the read is to Sky Moore. I'm throwing the ball. His job to catch it. He doesn't have to be in there anymore, but I'm throwing the ball and trusting it more. Because earlier I didn't throw it to Justin Watson. Okay, and he would have caught it. I'm going to throw it, and it's Sky Moore, and he didn't catch it. I just wonder if that little element of I'm trusting my eyes, the safety came down, I'm giving it a shot, this is what the plan is, I'm doing it. If maybe that sort of starts to click, if he was going through a stretch of just not trusting what he was seeing. And I think every player, Hall of Famer or not, Bobby Witt, batting title, champion, leader, led the Major League Baseball in hits, had a 3-week stretch where he batted 200. He didn't forget how to play baseball. He didn't forget how to hit a ball, right?
Exactly.
Patrick Mahomes didn't forget how to play football. He didn't forget how to throw a football. But I think sometimes you can get in your own head. And even Hall of Famer great players can get in your own head and think, well, do I throw it there? And a slight hesitation is the difference between a completion or not. And Mahomes is going to get back to the guy that's, here's the read, here's the throw, second read, go there, and let's move the ball. I am fully confident that that's going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I am too. And I mean, I know, and this is the take that always gets me into trouble because most people don't want to hear.
Mahomes.
Don't want to hear this.
I know it.
That was what I was going to.
No wonder it gets you in trouble. I mean,
it's the take of sometimes you have to take the ball out of Mahomes' hands, which is that you still have to run the football in this league.
It's not a take that'll get you in trouble with me.
And it's more true now than it has been in many, many years because right now teams are running the ball more effectively than they have been for a while.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason why is because every team is playing every defense now against everybody, every offense, the same way they've been playing Mahomes the last 5 years. They're playing 2, 3 cover 4s. They're doing all of that. They're playing these shell coverages. They're putting nobody in the box. I mean, teams are daring the Chiefs to run the football. And Pacheco gets hurt, and the Chiefs are even more unwilling to kind of run the football and kind of commit to it and everything. Although, I mean, they're still at a kind of a Andy Reid mix, 65-35.
Well,
I mean,
and Andy
he's
said,
always going to be there.
Well, and he asked about the final drive, and I thought it was interesting and noteworthy that Andy Reid said, well, the final drive, because I think that was pretty balanced, right? That drive, and it was 6 plays, 3 runs, 3 passes. If Andy Reid mentioned that, of like, hey, that final drive, did you guys, what happened on that final drive? Can you take us through that? And his first response was that, I think it was pretty balanced, right? And then he went in and talked about it. I don't think he was saying, I'm pretty sure it was balanced, right? Right, guys? No, I think he was just thinking out loud. I think it was pretty balanced, and it was 3 and 3. Maybe that's something that Andy Reid noticing in real time and feeling that, hey, we've got to incorporate more of this because we don't have Hollywood or Rasheed, and Kareem Hunt looked good. So
if Kareem is going to average 5 yards a carry, run the football a little bit.
Yes.
I'm not saying you have to go
not every time.
all overboard or anything, but it's going to make Mahomes that much more effective because right now you can run play action. Defenses don't care.
Yeah.
They're not going to respect the run. They're not going to change what they're doing based on that. They're going to say, hey, if you run the ball, you run the ball.
They're going to prefer you running the ball.
They're preferring you run the football. So
because they don't have a Devon Achane. They don't have a guy that'll take the ball and break it 80 yards.
Yeah.
You can hand it off. You'll get 6 yards. Okay, it's 2nd and 4. We're still going to play our defense, and if you get 6 yards every time, we don't think you're going to without a penalty or a turnover or something along the way, and we'll hold you to 3. And if we hold you to 3 every time, 10 possessions, 30 points isn't great, but we'll take our chances with bending and not breaking against you guys. And if that means you're handing the ball off every time, then you're handing the ball off every time. I mean, that's just simply the way that it's going to be. We'll take a break. We'll come back. One more segment with Matt Derrick because we're going to hear from the Chiefs coordinators coming up here in just a little bit. On the other side, we'll talk about Rasheed Rice, what the impact is for that, what it is moving forward, what the sort of mysterious nature of not saying what the injury is or getting another opinion and being placed on IR. We'll do that on the other side of the break. More Zone next. All right, welcome back here in the zone right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Hanging out with Matt Derrick. Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. One more short segment than the Chiefs and their press conference is coming up in a little bit. Again, Thursday for them, Friday for us. All right, Matt. Rashee Rice, it's been mysterious in this whole, injury, and they're going to have more tests next week, waiting for the swelling to go down. What do you make of this? Can you get a read on what's going on? Is there optimism that he could return this year? Is this, we're going to wait and see before we let you know the entire extent of the damage that's there, that may be in the Chiefs' mind. He's not coming back this year. We're hoping for the best, but we're not going to say it's this or that until we know exactly what it entirely is. What do you make of what's going on?
There's no, I don't want to say that there's no subterfuge. There's a little bit, but from my understanding, Chiefs are being pretty clear and honest here, is that they, at this point, don't 100% know the extent of the damage, how either good or how bad it is. I will say, I'm getting more optimism from everybody on this than I certainly expected at this point. A group of writers, we had to sit down with Holmes on Wednesday, and he was talking about, hey, hopefully we're going to have him back soon, and in a bit. And this move, the Chiefs putting him on IR right now, usually the Chiefs, they have a tendency to wait before putting guys on IR. Especially because they generally wait to make roster moves until they have to.
Yep.
But in this case, there's a little bit of gamesmanship.
I agree. I love where you're going with that. Continue.
Because there's a distinct difference between putting Rashee Rice on IR right now versus putting him on IR on Tuesday. And that's an entire game.
Yep.
Because you have to miss 4 games. So
not
this
4
means
weeks.
Not 4 weeks, 4 games.
Yep, absolutely.
So this means he's going to miss 4 games. But the Saints game is one of them. If they'd waited until Tuesday, it would be 4 games after that. So clearly the Chiefs are thinking, wait a minute, there's a possibility that he could only be out 4 games. I think the likelihood of possible outcomes is that he's going to be out longer than that. But the possible outcomes that he's back this season, there's numerous ones. Yeah. And part of it is, I go back, I've been kind of going back to the Spencer Ware injury, if anybody remembers that, because I'm not saying it's similar, but it could be similar in the sense that with the way that injury took place and everything, and if his ACL is intact, which, if there's just a tear of the ACL, you can play through a partial tear. Can't play through a complete tear.
Right.
That's going to be too much.
Yeah, unless he's going to play a round of golf with Tiger. You're not going to be able to do that.
Exactly. There's been some crazy cases, and a receiver playing through an ACL. No, that's not going to happen. Yeah. But, if even like Spencer Ware, with that damage, he had damage in the dark corner, the dark tunnel, whatever you want to call it, back part of that post-lateral part of the knee. He had damage that he could have played through. It was just that there was one particular ligament that was damaged and torn, and it was like, that's the one that you can't. So there's part of things that you can play through. There's things that you could have, like whether it's the meniscus or some other things. There's things that you could have damage that maybe you need surgery, but not season-ending surgery. It's a gamut of options right now. But part of it's that they just don't know because that swelling hasn't completely gone down yet. So they want to have the test next week and see. It's still... Everything to me, not to me, but from what I've been told, is still on the table.
Yeah, right.
This could be a few weeks. It could be a month or 2. It could be the entire season.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you read it that way. That's the exact way I read it. And I think to add to that is, the fantasy football life of people is that when somebody goes on IR, well, then you immediately put, or gets injured, you immediately put them on IR or whatever, and then you go pick up somebody else because you only have a certain number of spots on your fantasy football team, and you want to make sure you have all those filled. Chiefs don't have 53 men on their roster, right? They don't have every single spot filled. So there's no reason for there to be an expedited, move to, we got to get them on IR right now because we got to open up this roster spot. They've got roster spots open. They can bring guys up. They can go and sign them. So I'm glad you read it that way because that was my first thought is they don't even know the damage and they're putting them on IR already. They're giving themselves at least a chance that 4 games from now they could bring him back and he might be ready to go, or at least they believe even a percentage chance of that happening. There's no reason for us to wait. If he's on this, if he's out for the season anyway, then who cares when we put him on IR? But if the scans and the tests come back and it's the most positive outcome we could hope for, well, then let's put him on IR right now. I read it the same way. What do you think they do at wide receiver then? Do you think if it comes back and it's not great news, or maybe the damage is significant enough to miss the season, but it's maybe good news from bad news, right? It's not Nick Chubb or anything like that. Do they do anything at wide receiver the rest of the year? It's a lot of conversations and things that are written nationally, locally, about here are the possibilities of players the Chiefs will go out and get or could go out and get. One, do they go out and get anybody? Two, how do they overcome in the meantime without Rashee Rice?
Yeah, I mean, as far as if they're going to go out and get anybody, I mean, there hasn't been much fire right now. I mean, there's a lot of speculation, but there hasn't been any fire whatsoever as far as the Chiefs are particularly interested in this player. I thought what Andy Reid said Monday was very telling. And probably the one line buried in the whole thing is that, you know, when talking about the challenges of coming into this offense mid-season is knowledge of the offense. Yep. So to me, I mean, if you're going to be talking about a receiver coming into this team and being able to actually help this year and do anything while Rashee Rice is out, it's going to have to be somebody who's either, one, played with this team, two, has experience in an Andy Reid offshoot. So it's somebody that has maybe played for Matt Nagy or has played for Doug Peterson. I mean, you could probably even pull somebody like Brian Dable in there. I mean, there's probably a few offenses that you could include.
With Kafka,
Kafka, yeah. I mean, there's probably a few in there that you could say, okay, with Dable and Kafka, it might have to be terminology. I mean, that would be the only thing that you'd have to learn. So I think you're isolating it to that right there. I mean, two, it's going to have to be somebody really cheap. I mean, the poster child for this would be Demarcus Robinson.
Absolutely.
I mean, I think that's what you're talking about, the type of player. Whether it be him, and right now it probably wouldn't be him because the Rams still have playoff aspirations.
Right.
So the number of teams that right now are willing to make a trade, I mean, and no, the Chiefs are not trading for Devontae Adams. They're not trading for Tyreek Hill. I don't even think they would be trading for an Amari Cooper, even though his contract is pretty friendly.
That's not somebody I think that if they traded for somebody that was a bigger name, my guess would be they would trade for somebody like Deontay Johnson, and then they would sign him long term.
And I don't even think of Deontay Johnson
I don't
on
think,
the table.
Right. I don't think they're going to do it.
Because I don't think it's an interest,
I don't think they're going to do it. But if they traded for a big name, I don't know that they would trade for a big name that's a rent-a-player because of the acclimation period in the offense and what Andy Reid's talked about. If you trade for a bigger name, I think it would be the Chiefs trading for a bigger name that they may want to go and sign anyway. And you trade for him and give him the 2 or 3 year extension on his contract. And then you're less worried about the immediacy of learning the offense this year because you've got him for a couple of years. More in the line of Kadarius Toney, who came in really to take over for McCole Hardman the next year. They weren't really expecting much from him the first year because of learning the offense. But when McCole leaves, he now slides into the McCole Hardman spot, and we wouldn't have availability to him in the offseason anyway. So that would be my guess. Demarcus Robinson, that's the name that I've talked about as well if they make that move. In the meantime, how do they make up for no Rashee Rice?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's going to be with the guys that they've got. So I think there's probably two most likely possibilities. I mean, Justin Ross is probably the guy that gives you something that you don't currently have. So I think he'd probably be – but again, you've got practice squad elevation, so you don't have to make an immediate move. They've got 2 spots on the 53, one set aside for Clyde, so he'll be taking that as soon as he's ready. It could be before Monday night, could be after. They got 3 weeks to decide on Clyde, but one of those roster spots is his. The other one can be for a receiver, so they could sign somebody from their practice squad, bring somebody up. And Nico Remigio, I think, is the other one. He becomes a possibility, I think, especially because, with McCole banged up this week, he was limited on Wednesday, Thursday, whichever day of the week it is. I can't keep track anymore.
He was limited on Thursday yesterday, but it was a Wednesday for them.
For your Friday, Jason, it's my Thursday.
I know.
So that becomes a possibility because obviously you can play special teams and be a receiver as well. So if there's any concern that, that for instance, that McCole can't return kicks and punts this week, Nico would be a good guy to have around. Those are the 2 most likely possibilities, I think. Could have both. I mean, you never know. I mean, and because of the practice squad elevations, it doesn't have to be an either or. I mean, you could, and that's the reality is that you're not going to replace that production with Rashee Rice with one guy. So it's going to have to be a bunch. It's going to have to be the tight ends. It's going to have to be a couple of receivers. It's going to have to be the running backs. And by running back, we're talking about Kareem. And maybe a little Samaj P. Ryan. We'll see what Carson Steele's spot in his rotation is, but I think he's down on the list now.
Yeah, he's going to have to hold on to the football. All right, last one for you. What do you think happens on Monday night? Chiefs and Saints, Royals and Yankees. Chiefs and Saints, though. What do you think happens?
Once again, I'm a broken record. Until the Chiefs offense breaks out, I'm expecting the Chiefs offense not to break out. Maybe this will be the week that they do it. The Saints, you look at the numbers, really offensively, definitely influenced by the first couple of weeks when they had some good matchups and they were coming out of the box and probably surprising a few people. But this, to me, I mean, this is still a defensive-driven team. So I think that defensively they can keep up with the Chiefs a little bit. Derek Carr is Derek Carr. I mean, Derek Carr. If Derek Carr protects the football, he can be a problem. If he doesn't, it's not a problem. I think this is going to be another one of the games the Chiefs have been playing close and tight. So I'm going with the Chiefs 23-17.
23-17.
And
got you down.
Royals, they're winning.
Oh, nice. All right,
Yeah.
very good. Very good. Royals will be up 2-0 when they come back to Kansas City next
At least
Wednesday.
at least 1-1. But I think they can. I think they can
Take one in New York.
clean it up in Kansas City.
We got baseball, playoff baseball back in Kansas City, regardless. Matt Derrick, Chiefs Digest 41 is the Mike podcast. Matt, you're the man. Get to the press conference, and we'll talk to you soon.
Sounds great, my friend.
All right, we'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll hear from those press conferences coming up next year.
No. In fact, they're the outlier as far as that goes too. They, they actually 70% of the time they kick to you. So we'll see what happens. I mean, we're getting ready for that. We expect that. So, we're actually excited about it.
Nicole has popped up out of the mix. Who would be the guys?
Well, we have a number of guys that can do it. Obviously, Nico can do it. Washington could do it. Any of those two guys could possibly pop up, if McCole was down, and then obviously we have other guys in the mix, Worthy could be a punt returner, Sky Moore, Watson. We have a lot of guys. We have a lot of options there.
What did you say about Arise's importance last game?
Yeah, he had a great game. He had 4 punts, 4 inside the 20, 50 gross, and a 50 net. I mean, that's pretty darn good numbers. I thought he was definitely a contender for AFC Player of the Week, I thought, on special teams. I mean, if he didn't, obviously, I can't remember who got it. Oh, Tennessee kid, the kicker got it at Tennessee, who's well-deserved too, but he had a great game. He was important in that game for us. He flipped the field. You know, we made him go to the distance there. We got the ball back, and then we scored Worthy's touchdown right after that. So, you know, we had a big hand in that, you know, and Matt played an important part in the guys going down the ball. So it was big.
How much has he kind of shown growth on all of those sides for you, getting the pin inside the 20?
Yeah,
he wasn't as good early.
Right. Early in the first game, we had a couple touchbacks, two touchbacks out of 3 balls, and after that, it's been no touchbacks. Knock wood. I mean, we keep that going. That's important. So, you know, he's off to a good start. We're only 4 games in. We got a long way to go, but I like where he's heading right now.
That deep field goal, did you kind of know that was just a?
No, I knew it was a hard. You know, it's going to be good if he got it. I mean, I thought he had a real good shot at it. I mean, it was just half a yard short when you go down and look at the, you know, actually where it landed. It was so deep that the returner couldn't even get to it. We knew a returner was in there. We had to cover that kick if it was short, but the chance that we had, I mean, it was a perfect setup because they weren't going to get the ball. They weren't going to get the ball with the field position. The time was going to run out, you know. So, Pat did a good job there, you know, getting us in that situation. He's so smart. He gets us in. He knows exactly what to do there, you know, when we want to try a long one there. So it's perfect.
When they have someone go back on a long kick like that, do you change your personnel or just?
We don't change personnel. We know it's out there. We know we have to cover. If you watched our guys after the kick, they immediately, the old lineman, you know, it's not ideal that you got a lineman covering, you know, but that's the advantage for them is having a returner back there. You just have to, you know, you practice it. You know where your lanes are, and it's not something you practice all the time, but they understood, you know, that they had to cover that kick.
A couple more. All right, thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right, there's Dave Tobe. Give you an update on practice. McCole Hardman not practicing today, and he was on the injury report yesterday, limited practice because of the knee. Kareem Hunt was on the injury report, limited practice because of the knee injury as well, or a shoulder injury, shoulder, collarbone area. Mike Dana was limited yesterday with a calf, and then Derek Nottie and Nick Bolton both were full participant. Nottie with the triceps, Nick Bolton with a hamstring. But McCole Hardman goes from limited participant yesterday to a not practicing today. So not great news for McCole Hardman. Dave Tobe saying on the punt returns, if there's no McCole Hardman, he said Nico Remigio, Montrell Washington, also Xavier Worthy, Sky Moore, Justin Watson. But he did mention a couple of guys that are down on the practice squad with Nico Remigio and Montrell Washington as guys that you could see be in there if McCole Hardman can't go. I would guess that a did not practice on a Friday, real day of a Monday, but this is a Thursday during the week. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday practice reports. If you're not practicing on a Thursday, odds would say that you are not going to be playing on what that Sunday would be, but not practicing on Friday, probably not playing on a Monday. So we'll keep our eye on that. We'll hear from Steve Spagnuolo and Matt Nagy and Chris Jones. We'll also hear from the Royals this hour, in the next hour as well. And, that'll be Bobby Witt and Michael Waka, Matt Quattrero, Salvador Perez. But there you go. Saints, he said, are a kickoff team that are the outliers. They will kick it to you. So they're not going to be a whole lot of touchbacks, but they're going to kick it to you and make you return. So the Chiefs are going to have to be ready from that standpoint. We'll see who's going to be returning kicks for the Chiefs coming up this weekend. Because, again, McCole Hardman, at this time, I would guess, would not be available to play. Maybe something will change tomorrow and he'll get back to a limited practice. Maybe today was not practicing to make sure then he would be good to go on Monday, but that's typically not how it works with the Chiefs in the injury report and guys practicing or not practicing. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll hear from Steve Spagnuolo. His defense has now gone 25 straight games without allowing 28 points. So 25 straight games giving up fewer than 28 points this defense. The last time this defense gave up 28 points or more was against the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. It's the last time that's happened. This team has been playing phenomenal, dominant, top 5 in the league defense, and it's a big reason why they are 4-0 right now. We'll see what the offense can do. Who will step up in Rashee Rice's absence? Who will step up in Isaiah Pacheco's absence? Kareem Hunt certainly did that last week. Carson Steele did it the week before. Kareem Hunt, though, limited participant with the shoulder injury. There was thoughts that maybe earlier in the week they thought it was a little more serious than it ended up being, which is good news, that he's practicing. So that's good. Chiefs also have Samaje Perine if need be, and Carson Steele. We know that the fumbles have taken place. Needs to be better with that, certainly. But he has been a guy that is He's run the football pretty well when he has not fumbled. That's a big caveat there. That's a big star qualifier, asterisk qualifier next to it when he hasn't fumbled the football. You are listening to Sports Radio 810 WHB Kansas City, and we'll hear from Steve Spagnuolo and also Matt Nagy. There is an update on Rashee Rice to a degree, and that update on Rashee Rice being that he's going to have his knee scoped early next week when the swelling goes down. Now, we heard Andy Reid say that, they'll be doing additional tests next week once the swelling goes down. But now we're hearing that those additional tests are going to be the arthroscopic knee sort of do the scope just to see the damage that's inside that knee. The MRIs and some of the tests has shown, at least from some reports, that the ACL/PCL is not ruptured, torn completely. And if that's not the case, then you go in there and the scope will tell you the full extent of the damage. Is there a full tear that the MRI did not show because of some of the fluid that's in there with the swelling? Is it a cartilage issue? Is it a meniscus issue? Is there a grade 1, a grade 2 sprain? Because that could be the difference of playing this year or not. For example, Puka Nacua has a grade 2 PCL strain. He's planning on returning this year. Now, it happened a few weeks before Rashee Rice, obviously, but Puka Nacua with a grade 2 PCL strain is on IR, but is not out for the season. That would be great news for Rashee Rice. It also could be something like Von Miller, where they did not think he tore his ACL. The MRI was not, clear on that. They went in there for the scope. They found the ACL was torn. They went ahead and repaired it then. Von Miller went under thinking he was going to be out 4 to 5 weeks, woke up with a season-ending ACL tear and surgery. Hopefully that's not the case with Rashee Rice, but they are going to look at his knee early next week, and then we'll have a better idea. Now, there certainly seems to be growing optimism around there because a lot of the doctors on Twitter, and I don't mean to make fun. I don't mean these guys are literal, actual MDs and people that do that for a living that have weighed in on the different scenarios in their medical expertise without having viewed the MRIs or having, been a part of any of the tests or anything, saying that essentially if this thing was torn, they would know by now. Like if there was a full tear, they would know, and you wouldn't need to go in and do the scope. You wouldn't have to go and do that to see the extent. You would simply open it up to repair the ACL, and while you're there, see the extent of the damage and continue repairing whatever needs to be repaired in that knee. You wouldn't have to go in to get a closer view. Now, you can go in to get a closer view, and it shows that there is a full tear, or a tear that is bad enough that it will keep you out for the season, that rest and recuperation and rehab just will not be enough time, if it's that bad, to return. But, man, it certainly seems like there's growing optimism, and I don't want to get my hopes up, right? You don't want to fall into the trap of thinking that he's going to return at some point, that maybe they get Rashee Rice and Hollywood Brown back at the same time, Isaiah Pacheco returning, and there can be a time where the wide receiving group that we thought the Chiefs would have this year of Hollywood Brown, Rashee Rice, and Xavier Worthy, along with Travis Kelce, like those 4 guys together, depending on the severity and what we see with the result of Rashee Rice's knee, very well could be that those guys never play a snap in the NFL together in a regular season game. Here's Steve Spagnuolo.
1 minute. I set my watch fast, so I'm off by, I think it's 7 minutes fast. Are we at 11:59 right now?
Yes, we are.
I'm good. All right. I just got done talking to Joe Buck, and Troy Aikman brought me back to the days when I was in the NFC. Used to see those guys all the time in New York. But with that, I'll open it up because it's time to talk to you guys.
I wanted to ask you about Tyrann Mathieu. Obviously,
Yeah.
he could be playing here. In what ways do you still maybe see the remnants of the effects that he had in your locker room still today?
Yeah, listen, I got a special place in my heart for Tyrann, right? He's a special guy. It'd be great to see him. I think the last time we think we saw him. We went down there preseason game. Yeah, it was the last time we got a chance to give him a big hug. But love Tyron. I see it every day. It's a little thing, but our DBs before we go out. You guys aren't out there until we get to stretch, right? But usually about 10 minutes before that, all of the DBs are out on the field, and they're doing footwork, and Dave's with them, and Donald with them. But that was really established with Tyron all the way back. He was pulling those guys out of the locker room 10 minutes early, and so that's a leadership thing. And I think he laid a foundation here, especially in the secondary, of some of the things that we do, quite frankly, and the way they operate. I know those years, looking back when he was first here, LJ was young at the time, and I remember him learning from Tyron. And then Tyron left, and LJ was teaching Trent. And so there's been a trickle down, and I think we owe Tyron a lot for what he did when he was here.
I know you're usually kind of hesitant of the jinx, but what has been, do you think, the main reason you've been able to be so successful against running back production this year?
Yeah, I mean, every game's different, right? So you hope that continues. But I think the guys are playing like that. I think the chemistry and being lock and step is really important. I just got asked a similar question by Joe, and I do think the fact that our linebackers play aggressively downhill helps us too, because I think it helps the linemen in front of them. So if we can keep doing that and making sure we don't give up, the thing that's kind of bit us a little bit is a couple of explosive passes here and there, and that kind of gets the offense going. It was like we were doing pretty good, and then Justin hit that slant to the slot there, and Tremere was trying to. And thank God Brian Cook ran him down. But if we can eliminate those plays and keep playing run defense like that, then we can get them in longer third downs and try to have some success.
Have you found a common thread in first drives of the game? Teams have had some success.
Yeah. The common thread is we're giving up too many points in those drives. I just looked at. I was watching something and that came up. We talk about it all the time. That had usually not been a problem for us. But listen, I'll credit offenses. They script. Most teams script. They say we can get this done, and they practice it, and they're pretty efficient at it. Somewhere in there in that first drive, we got to get a third down stop. Get them the third down, get a third down stop. I always felt like the first third down of the game that you're out there is really important to get the stop. You want that to be on the third play. You don't want it to be on play 5, 6, 7, or 8. But if we could find a way to be, I would say if we can find a way to be better on third down early, it might lead to us getting off the field.
The Saints are really good on third down this year.
Yeah.
Second in the NFL. What do you see from them?
Well, I think they're really good because they mix it up. It's not just pass, and it's not just trying to chuck it down deep. I mean, they'll run the football. And they got some really good people to do that, so that kind of gets you on your heels a little bit. Derek knows exactly what. I've always had respect for Derek Carr and how he gets them in and out of a bad play and into a good one. I think that has a lot to do with it. And he's a very accurate quarterback. And when you're talking about a 3rd and 3 or 4 or 5 or whatever, and he's smart enough to say, hey, I'm just going to get the first down here. I think that's why they're really good.
Chris coming off his 2-sack game. What kind of start is he off to?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what the totals are. I just know he does affect the game for us. I think he affects every player around him, whether it's a linebacker fitting behind him, whether it's somebody pass rushing along with him, whether it's the protections that we're seeing because of Chris. We got to keep trying to take advantage of that, and hopefully, in him keep playing the way he does. It's certainly going to help us. I mean, we're a better football team, obviously, when Chris is playing like that. Not just sacks, but what he's been doing in the run game too.
With the, we've seen before, Steve, how when the offense comes off the field, Pat will usually talk to either Andy or Matt. For you, do you have a similar sort of back and forth with Chris?
It's actually more Nick. I mean, I'm kind of up and down the bench there, but things that we need for the D line would be Chris. But I mean, Nick is the guy that's in the middle. Nick and the safeties, because it's usually a communication thing. Or if I see something with the D line, as I'm looking at the pictures, I'm usually walking down there. But it's probably. Now listen, I got great trust in the coaches that are on the sideline dealing with their units, and you'll see that during the game. They each have their guys, and if I feel like I got to chime in, I do. But pretty much they take care of it, and then if I need to give something different to Nick that we're going to change, he'd be a guy to go to.
Steve, with Kamara having kind of the lower body strength he does, how important is it or how do you slow him down?
Yeah, well, listen, the first thing we put up, we always put objectives, but the number one here, objective against these guys, is I think it's tackling, not just the running back, but the wideouts too, because the yak and what they can do explosively. But he's always been a challenge. He's what we call a stretch to cutback player. I just think when he decides to stick his foot in the ground and go like that, he's really difficult if you're not disciplined and technique-wise really good on the backside. Like when the play goes away from you, and there's certain things you need to do and expect 41 to come back. And if you're not ready for that, I mean, you've seen it. You've seen what he's done.
Couple more.
Yeah, and you were talking about the third down, how successful the Saints have been on the first and second down the first couple of weeks.
Yeah.
How important is it to get them in a third and long?
Yeah.
Play calling?
Yeah, with every team, that's a goal. This team is no different. I think they do a really good job with deciding how they're going to protect. I mean, they'll have a plan for Chris and the things that we do. We just got to try to figure it out quick enough and hopefully get him in those down and distances. We were fortunate last week where I think we got a few more negative plays on first and second down that got us in some longer, and we were able to take advantage of that.
Last two. We'll go Sam and then Todd.
What do you think about the way Jalen Watson's been playing
Yeah.
this last week in LA?
Yeah, really good game last week. I mean, I think he kicking himself in the butt for not catching that one ball. He would love to have that, and he usually makes those. He's got pretty good hands, but Jalen's been solid. We need that. We need we need that position to keep playing really well. When we move Trent inside, with whoever goes in there, needs to continue to play well. You need three really good ones in this league, and we got 4 games under our belt, so hopefully our guys will keep getting better and better.
You mentioned you have the respect you have for Derek Carr. You've seen him over the years for a long time in this league, now with a different team. How have you seen him grow throughout that, and especially now in his year 2 with this team?
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while to think back at when he was younger, like what the difference is. But I know in these last few years that we've had an opportunity to go against each other. I've always have great respect for the guys that, from the chin to the hairline, are really good, and that's what Derek is. Not every quarterback is on. I think he is. He got us back here a couple of years ago on a 3rd and 1. I don't know if he checked in and out of it, but the long pass play that went for a touchdown. I don't forget those things. And so I realize that he's one of those guys that he'll study the film. He'll know at a lot of downs. He'll know exactly what we're trying to do, and he'll have a plan for what he can do with his offense to get him in. And I think that's the challenge when you play a guy like that. And he's talented. Look he's one of the most accurate quarterbacks in the league right now, as far as where he's putting the ball. I think his receivers probably appreciate that, and he's got some guys he can throw it to.
Thank
You
you.
good? Yeah, thank you.
All right, there's Steve Spagnuolo. Yes, Derek Carr, very familiar with Kansas City, and the Chiefs very familiar with Derek Carr. We'll see what their plan is going to be against Chris Jones, but Steve Spagnuolo talking about opening drives. They have to be better. There's no doubt about it. They have to be better, not give up points. 4 drives, opening drives for opposing teams this year through 4 games, 4 drives, 24 points. 3 touchdowns and a field goal. Those drives consisting of 70 yards, 66 yards, 70 yards, 74 yards. Opening drives. 24 of the 72 points they've given up all year have come on the first drive of the game. Now, they have clearly buckled down and played great defense after that, limiting opposing teams. Every other drive combined is 48 points total. But they've consistently fallen behind because of the opening drives of the game for the opposing team. They've trailed by 10 points to the Chargers. They were trailing to Atlanta. They trailed to Baltimore 7-0 with the Derrick Henry touchdown. And then against Cincinnati, they were down 3-0. Yeah, because Cincinnati was the field goal. So they were down 3-0. So the Chiefs have not necessarily started because the Chiefs got the ball first against the Chargers. So they didn't have the ball trailing first. They had the ball with the tide first. Carson Steele fumbled. Chargers go down 74 yards and score a touchdown. But against Baltimore, they got the ball down 7-0. Cincinnati, they got the ball down 3-0. And Atlanta, they got the ball down 7-0. That has to be better. The defense has done so many things really well this year. That's not one of them. Those first 15, those scripted plays by opposing offenses, that's worked. The Chiefs being able to then counter that and adjust, that's worked for the Chiefs. But that's got to be better. And the Saints have some offensive weapons. I mean, Rashid Shaheed, you've got Chris Olave, Alvin Kamara is really good. And we'll see if Taysom Hill is going to play on Monday night. I doubt it. He didn't practice yesterday. I don't know what the update is from New Orleans at this point, whether he's practicing today or not. And I don't know what the New Orleans Saints do with their players if they're limited or did not practice, if there's still chances for them to play. But we'll get the final injury report on Saturday afternoon for both these teams. But Willie Gay didn't practice either, just as a heads up. He had the hand injury. He left the game early. Tyrann Mathieu did practice yesterday. Wasn't even on the injury report. So Tyrann Mathieu looking like he is going to play against the Kansas City Chiefs on Monday night. Here's Matt Nagy.
Talking to Patrick about a bleep it mentality. It seems self-explanatory, but I wonder what stood out to you on that.
Well, I didn't know I had no idea about that. I know what you're talking about, but I think it's just one of them. We talked a little bit throughout the week of just going about some certain mentalities as we go through it, and that was that. Short and sweet, nothing to the point. You can probably take from it and understand where we're at with that. And we were all like that, heading into that moment. So.
What do you want him doing or not doing after he throws an interception?
Just whatever he's been doing his whole career, because the beauty of Pat is that he always knows why it happened, and then we always want to know, like, what'd you see in that moment? And so he kind of lost vision on that corner. I'm fortunate enough to be able to come from a quarterback's perspective. I played the position all my life, so I know when you're back there, the things you can and can't see, and it's easy when you're in a booth or on the sideline to say what you thought should have happened. So most of the time he's right in what he sees and doesn't see, but we just go back to like making sure progression-wise, footwork-wise, all that kind of stuff, we always start there. And I think that's what we continue to do this year and moving forward here. But the kid made a good play. He fell off on the deep route, made a good play, and that's just something you want to use moving forward throughout that game to stay away from that. Go ahead.
I take it you don't want to see him be a defender.
Not at all, no. But at the same point in time, you appreciate the selflessness of trying to make a tackle. It's unfortunate what happened, but we always are training our guys that if that does happen, make sure that we react to it and try to either force them back inside or make the play.
How difficult in those situations when you lose a piece like Rice is it to sort of hit the reset button and pull off what you were able to in that situation?
Well, there's emotions that go into it. Number one, that's the human element, but then there's the coaching part and then the player's aspect of being able to understand personnel-wise. He was obviously a big part of that game plan, and he always is. So that's why throughout the week it's important to make sure that guys are, even if it's not in practice, somewhere at practice, getting reps in certain positions. And so there's a little bit of juggling that goes on in a short period of time, personnel-wise, and then understanding who's going to run the next route that was in Rashid's spot. And if you take that person from a route, then you got to replace him, so it's kind of a domino effect. So I thought that Coach Embry and the wide receivers, tight ends, Coach Mel, I thought everybody did a great job of getting back into the swing of things that a lot of people don't see. But we got to, guys got to always be ready.
Now, when you look at Rashid, obviously he was doing a lot for you guys for the first three weeks. Without asking you to get into the scheme of what your solutions are going to be, what do you have to replace with them out?
Well, he's different in a lot of ways. He's grown a lot, and we kind of had a good feel as to what we liked, what he did well. But that's a part of this game. NFL teams across the league right now are dealing with injuries. So who's the next man up? It's generic, but it's real. And then how do you work through that? So we feel like we have a lot of great receivers on our roster, guys with experience, guys with different talents, and then it's our job in prep-wise to put them in the greatest position.
Pat mentioned with Dennis Allen, he offers a lot of unscouted looks. When you're in your shoes, just how do you go about preparing for something like that?
Sure. You want to make sure you 30,000-foot view-wise have like a good versus all concepts. Make sure, because when teams and coordinators have different looks, you don't want to get caught with something that you think they're going to give you and then it's something opposite. So I think we've done a pretty good job at that this year, making sure that the guys feel comfortable, and then when a play is called, they can go out and execute in a quick manner.
Kareem's running the other day must have seemed familiar to you.
It was. Yeah, it was really neat. He's so violent. He's physical. He had a great attitude throughout. He had however many. I think he had 16 or 17 carries, a few touches in the pass game. That's who he is, and we weren't really sure going into it how many he'd get. But he runs violent. He runs hard, and when you're doing that, it makes it nice.
Matt, having been a quarterback and being a coordinator, play caller, when a quarterback has a mistake or you don't make a conversion on the next drive, how do you kind of get them back in their rhythm and kind of get back to zero for that next
Just
drive?
staying calm and going back to the basics. We've had a lot of great things happen in this offense because of him, and there's a lot of things that happen within one play. If it's whether it's a protection, whether it's a throw, or whether it's a wrong route that happens on an interception. So just understanding that part of it, and then resetting and using that next play mentality. And there's no one better than him because he's so competitive and he wants to be great. So he puts a lot of pressure on himself in a good way. It's a healthy pressure because he wants to do great. So we just want to make sure that we balance that, keep it contained, and then go out there and cut it loose.
Last couple.
Carson had another fumble. Was it a technique issue on that play, or is this just, hey man, it's the NFL and it's big, strong guys?
I wouldn't say necessarily a technique issue, more than just there was a great play by the guy with hitting it. But that said, like you said, he's had 2 now. And so we got to make sure that we're emphasizing it throughout the week. We're practicing it throughout the week. And then he's got to take that into the game and understand you got to be – it's not like he's swinging the ball around. It's been difficult. But to me, more than anything, it's probably like, okay, that happens. We had a good drive going. There's a fumble. It kind of deflates you a little bit, everybody. But we got to rally, pick him up, and keep moving forward. He's a great player, great kid.
When you say you practice it, and there's certain things you can do, but you don't tackle to the ground and all those things during the week. So
No, you can't.
You really can't practice.
You can't practice. But you can, I think, more than anything, emphasize it, and then you can practice it with certain drills. And Coach Pink and Coach Porter do a phenomenal job with that every week. It's unfortunate right now, and it needs to stop, and I really believe it will. But you gotta speak it into existence.
Last one, anyone? Thank you, Coach.
All right, take care. Thank you.
All right, there you go. There's Matt Nagy asked by Blair Kirchhoff, what do you want to see Patrick Mahomes do after an INT? And he said exactly what he's been doing. I'm like, I don't think you understood the question. But then said, no, not at all. We don't want to see him be a defender. We'll take a timeout. It's going to be a little bit before Chris Jones. So we'll take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll hear from Chris Jones, and then we'll hear from Bobby Witt, Michael Waka, Matt Quattrero, Salvador Perez, all getting ready for the Yankees. We will hear from them as well. Kendall Gammon will join us. We still have Sad Fans Orioles and Sad Fans Chargers to go. Jam-packed last couple of hours. More Zone next. Series, and we're going to hear from Chris Jones, and Chris Jones is ready to go. So here's a Chiefs should be talked about defensive player of the year, defensive tackle Chris Jones right now.
Just assess your season so far.
It's only 4 games in, man. Still got a long ways to go. Continue to get better every day. We got a lot of areas we need to improve in.
How about the defense as a whole?
A lot of areas we can improve in, but, still getting better.
What sort of areas are the ones that stick out to you that you guys got to get better at?
Tackling. I think we missed a couple tackles last week. Early started the game, not giving up big plays, eliminating our opponent from scoring at the beginning of the game. I think that's hunting us for the last 2 games. First drive, starting fast as we finish.
These Bags mentioned the first drive of the game. He'd love to get the first third down of the game is a big one for him. If you can get that first third down off there. Is the common thread in there is maybe some tackling, just some things happening so far this year?
Yeah, I think it's areas we can fix. It's nothing too extraordinary we can't fix. I think us as players got to take that and try to make sure we execute that on coming up this week.
Chris, you've been doing this a while. How much juice do you still get for something like Monday Night Football, just knowing that through the isolated game?
The fact that it's going into our bye week, I'd rather it be a Sunday night game, but super excited that we get a Monday night game.
Derek Carr is someone you've gone up against a lot in your life. What do you see from him with New Orleans as you started to get ready for this one?
They're playing really good football. It's a playoff caliber team. We're facing heck of a defense, and the offense is relying heavy on Derek Carr and Alvin Kamara.
You expect to catch up with some old friends before the game? Seems like there's a lot of ex-Chiefs on this team.
Yeah, we got Willie Gay, TK, Tyrann, Colin Sanders. I talked to him last night. I'm gonna call him today, see if he can give me any spits about him being in the offense. Probably won't. But it's good, man. It's good to play against your peers that you once played and accomplished so much with. It's also a challenge, though. We want to come in here and make sure we leave with a win, so it's exciting. Looking forward to it, and maybe we can chat after the game.
What do you remember about Colin's time here and just the relationship you guys developed?
That's my guy, man. That's my guy. Me and Colin, we became very close over the time he was here. I used to go over his house, still call his mama. Shared a very personable relationship. That's my guy. I wish him nothing but success on his journey in this league. And, when we play Monday, he's the opponent.
What do you remember about what Tyrann meant to kind of like leadership-wise for your defense when he came in?
He was such a leader. One of the premier safeties in this league and still playing at a high level to this day. I think he's defeating Father Time also. But Tyrann's always been an exceptional leader, even coming out of LSU. You put on the tape, there's one player that always sticks out, that's Tyrann Matthew, and still playing at a high level.
It's Friday. They didn't take away your sacks or anything? Do you get full credit for everything this week?
I don't even know. Don't even get me started about
it
this.
Looked like George had his finger on somebody.
Yeah. I guess the league, they waited 3 days last time, so I guess they waited 4 days this time.
Do you think maybe the AFC award was making up for it a little bit?
Excuse me?
AFC Player of the Week.
Yeah, thank you guys. I appreciate it.
Last one, anyone?
Yeah,
All right, thank you.
I'll take my half a second.
All right, there's Chris Jones. Listen. I want that sack. Listen. Chris Jones, Defensive Player of the Year, damn it. Give him his half sack back. All right? Can't be Sack Nation if you're taking half a sack away. Said he's got to continue getting better. He's been playing okay so far this year. He's been double-teamed a lot, has Chris Jones. But they get ready for the Saints coming up on Monday. We need to take a timeout. We'll come back, and we will hear from the Royals getting ready for the Yankees tomorrow afternoon, night, 17:38, when the Royals' first pitch takes place there in Yankee Stadium. Let's party like it's 1970, only to hell with Chris Chambliss. To hell with everybody else with the Yankees in the 70s. To hell with all of them. Let's party like it's 1980. Go ahead and hit a couple of upper deckers, damn it. We'll do that on the other side of the break. Kendall Gamble will join us in the 1 o'clock hour. We got sad fans Chargers. We got sad fans Orioles. All still to come. More Zone next. Continue right here on Sports Radio 810 WHB. Jason Anderson with you, Dylan Michaels. We'll talk with Kendall Gammon coming up at 1 o'clock. We might try to catch up with Mick Schaefer, who's in New York right now, but got a lot of stuff to get to still. We got sad fans from the Chargers and sad fans from the Orioles that we will get to before the show is over. We'll hear from the Kansas City Royals as well. Coming up later on today from 4 to 6, I will be out at Mod Pizza in Lee Summit. It's right off Chipman Road, 50 Highway, 470, right around there. I'll be there today from 4 to 6 because they've got the buy one, get one pizzas. We've done this a couple of times. It's so good. I mean, unlimited toppings, first of all, one price. I mean, Mod Pizza, as good as it is, now they're giving you a pizza for free when you come in and buy a pizza, getting you ready for some high school football. I know I got a couple of buddies that are going to head to a high school football game tonight. Stop by, get your buy one, get one pizza, and then head over to the game. They've got the Create Your Own, which is great because, again, unlimited toppings, one price. Create your own. Put whatever on there that you want. Predictably fast, predictably great is Mod Pizza. And, again, we will be there in Lee Summit today. The Chipman Road location is where we will be and hanging out there. 913-912-4810. Major League Baseball playoffs. Do want to let you guys know it is presented by Greenlight Dispensary. Check out greenlightdispensary.com for all premium cannabis products coming up this playoffs. Again, we'll talk with Kendall Gammon coming up at 1 o'clock, but we heard from Matt Nagy, we heard from Steve Spagnuolo, we heard from Chris Jones, we heard from Dave Tobe, and we've heard from, at least on social media, some of the doctors that are out there and talking about Rashee Rice, Matt Nagy talking about Rashee Rice, guys that are going to have to step up, guys next man up. We know that. Even if it's not worst-case scenario, he's going to be out for 4 games because they placed him on IR. I said earlier in the show, I think that's actually optimistic. I can find some optimism in the fact that they have placed him on IR already. And that optimism is the fact that if they placed him on IR on Tuesday or Wednesday when they had a better idea of what was going on because they're going in for the scope early next week to see what's going on, then it's an extra game that you're going to have to be out for. It's going to be out for 4 weeks whenever you place him on IR. If he's out for the season, then it doesn't matter. Place him on IR this week, next week. They're also not using 53 men right now on the roster, so there is not an emergency or a time period to where you have to do this a little quicker than you would want to put them on IR to get somebody active and ready to go. That's not the case with this team this year because of the numbers and them not having a full 53 right now that they're playing with. They can bring somebody up from the practice squad without putting Rashee Rice on the IR. Putting him on the IR right now, to me, says that there's at least a possibility that they think, hey, if this thing's only 5 weeks, he's got to miss 4 games, and the bye week is mixed in there, so that could be 5-week injury timetable and 4 games, and then could be ready to go 5 games from now. If you wait another week or 2, you're delaying that, and so I don't know. It's maybe it's trying to find the glimmers of hope, trying to find the silver linings, grasping at straws, whichever way you want to talk about it, qualify it, explain it, define it. It certainly feels like there could be an element of that, but from most of the information that's out there, trying to piece these things together, because we won't know until we get the official report from the Chiefs. And I think there's a pretty decent chance with those that are actually in the medical field that have said that their understanding of how it sort of matches up with the information and the additional tests and now the scope that's going to be had coming up this week, early next week, is that the belief would be that the ACL and the PCL are intact to some degree, that there isn't a full rupture with either of those. If there was a full rupture, then they would just simply go in for the surgery and then fix whatever else is in there, and you'd already say he's out for the year. This is not the cloak and dagger type, where you don't say this because you want to sort of delay it or give out hope. Like, they knew the next day, like Charles Omenihu tore his ACL. Again, they announced that the next day, Omenihu torn ACL, out for the year. Turk Wharton 2 years ago, torn ACL, out for the year. Like, they didn't wait around and, play games just for the heck of it. It wasn't Eric Berry day to day. Like, they weren't doing that with those injuries. The season ending, it's a season ending. Going in and with the scope to see the extent of it, if it's a grade 1 or grade 2 ACL or PCL, strain, then, or sprain, I should say, If it's an ACL or PCL sprain, grade 1 or grade 2, then that's not a season ender. If there's something with the cartilage or bad enough with the meniscus or a full tear, then that's going to be out for the season. So let's hear from Bobby Witt in New York. Bobby Witt, they call him baseball, right? Best damn play. You know what? The two leading MVP candidates, top three leading MVP candidates, will be playing tomorrow in New York with Judge and Bobby and Soto. But here is Bobby Witt in New York, meeting with the media, getting ready for Game 1 of the ALDS.
Appreciate it. Sammy and Josh on the microphones. Who's got the first question for Bobby? We'll start with Annie.
Hey, Bob. Earlier this week, you talked about the environment at Camden Yards and how fun it was. What do you think it'll be like here at Yankee Stadium, and how do you plan to handle that sort of atmosphere?
Definitely going to take it all in because everyone talks about playoff baseball in New York, and so it's going to be pretty special just being out here and just hearing the crowd and just how much history is behind here and everything. So it's just going to take it all in and enjoy it.
Just a little bit to your left, Jalen.
Hey, Bobby. Speaking of history, the Royals and the Yankees had a really intense playoff rivalry in the late 1970s. Did you ever watch highlights of just those type of games that they played? And also, what does it mean to kind of write your own chapter starting tomorrow?
Yeah, just from hearing it from George Brett and just how that kind of little rivalry went around. And so, but yeah, anytime just trying to kind of create your own legacy with what we have, with the team we have here and how special it is.
Go to Bill in the second row on your right, Bobby.
What does Salvi Perez mean to this team, and what's the biggest advice he ever gave you regarding the postseason?
Yeah, he's the captain of our team, and so just him just saying it's the same game we've played since we were little, and so just know that just go out there and enjoy every step of this process and everything, and just really just take it all in because you never know whenever you get this opportunity. Guys go through their career and they never really make it to the playoffs, never really get to experience this. So really just take it all in, enjoy every moment.
Go to the third row.
The Yankees now with the Orioles and the Astros out are kind of considered the huge favorite in the American League. Do you guys look at yourselves as underdogs coming into this series, and how do you kind of approach that?
Yeah, we approach it as any other series. It's just we're coming in here, playing our game, going to worry about one day at a time, focus one step at a time, and not really focus on any outside noise. And I know that, yeah, we could be the underdogs or whatever, but we have confidence in ourselves that we just can kind of go out there and just do our thing.
Go to Ron in the first row.
All during the year, being on sort of an unheralded team, and a lot of attention is on the Judges and Otanis and the Dodgers and the Yankees, does that give you guys just any bit of an edge, feeling like overlooked?
Not really. We know who we are. We're Kansas City Royals. We do our thing, and so we don't really we can't control any of that stuff, and so we just really control what we can and go about our own business.
And since you got to Kansas City, what have you learned about the city and the area that you didn't know before you lived there?
Yeah, just how much they love sports, how much they love their teams, and just how much they love their guys, and so it's just special. It's a special city, it's a special town, and so I just love being there.
Go to the end of the first row on your right, Bobby.
Hi, Bobby. Peter Splendorio with New York Daily News. Your name has sort of been linked all year to Aaron Judge's with the MVP race and everything. Just what do you think about him as a player, and how special is it, I guess, to kind of compete against him on this stage?
Yeah, it's awesome being able to kind of compete with him, and like you said, on this stage, and just seeing how this year he's had. It's been unbelievable, and just both how he is just on and off the field. I believe he plays the game the right way. He plays it hard, and so it's just it's really cool to see a guy like that in a city like this do what he did this year and in the years past.
Go to Melanie in the third row on your left, Bobby.
Right here. What has impressed you the most about Michael Wacha and just what he's been able to do on the mound all season?
Yeah, I think it's just the consistency he's had throughout this entire year, and from our whole pitching staff. It's been great to see what they've been doing, and just they're putting us in each and every game. They're giving us an opportunity to go out there and win, and so just when they do their thing, we got to just go out there and put some runs up on the board, knowing that they're going to do their thing.
Go to Jack, 5 rows back on your right, Bobby.
Bobby, I know it's a small sample size, but you have faced Garrett Cole in your career. How would you describe the challenge of going up against a pitcher who has the weapons that he has?
Yeah, this is the fun part of the game, being able to kind of go up against a guy like like him and being able to kind of compete. And so this is what you kind of dream of growing up. You want to face that guy. You want to face the ace. And so it's going to be a lot of fun.
And one row behind.
Bobby, I know you have a great relationship with Patrick Mahomes. Wondering these last few years, seeing him go through these postseason runs, if you've been jonesing for something like that, if you're excited to add to your legacy like he has, and if he's given you any sort of advice heading here into the postseason.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, he's been great. Like I've always said, we want to do what they did over across the street at Kauffman Stadium, bring the red they're doing to blue. And so, but yeah, he always just tells me just the work you put in before the game and everything, the preparation, that's the biggest thing. And just know that the work you do is good enough. You just got to go out there and be yourselves and not try to do too much, not try to do too little, and just really go out there, enjoy the game, and just know and just make sure you control what you can and make sure you're fully prepared.
Go to John in the second row.
Thanks, Bobby. You mentioned earlier about playing in New York during the postseason. Is there a game you watched on TV that happened here, or some great playoff moments that have really resonated with you that happened in the Bronx over the years?
Honestly, just really a lot of times you watching playoff baseball, a lot of games are in New York, and so just watching those games. Growing up, I was a Red Sox fan. My dad from Massachusetts, but Jeter was my guy, so always watching him do what he did out here, and so it's pretty special. Just saw the postseason moments that he had, and so it's just like when you kind of think of postseason baseball, you kind of think of it's going to be in New York somehow, some shape or fashion. So just really being able to come out here and kind of bringing the Royals out here and doing this is going to be a lot of fun.
Go to Gary, first row on your left, Bobby.
Hey, Bobby. Gary Phillips, Daily News. Going back to Judge, just what has stood out the most to you about his season?
Yeah, I think it's, like I said, about our pitching staff, the consistency of just how he's been doing it throughout the whole entire year and just stay consistent through it all and just how he is both on and off the field, just a great person and just being able to kind of do that for his team.
And then with Anthony Volpe, you guys played together when you were younger. What's your relationship like with him now, and how excited are you to be competing against him on this stage?
Yeah, we talked a little bit here and there, and just it was pretty cool kind of growing up and going through all that, like all the high school showcases, and then with Team USA stuff, we were able to kind of play up the middle together and win a gold medal, and so it's pretty special just to share those moments with him, and then just seeing what he's been doing has been pretty cool.
Stay there with Max.
Bobby, what did you learn about this Yankees team when you guys were here just a couple weeks ago?
Yeah, they're a great team, and we just got to play our game, and yeah, that's really all there is to it.
How much do you think your speed can play against this club and be a factor in this series?
Yeah, I think that's just kind of how we play as a team. The whole Kansas City Royals team is just where you have a lot of guys with speed, and so we're just going to try to play aggressive, play our game, and leave it all out on the field.
Go to Annie in the second row.
Kind of along those lines, talking about the offense, you got the timely hitting in Baltimore, but what's going to be the key to getting the offense back kind of in a groove like you guys were earlier this season?
Yeah, it's just like I've been saying, preparing, make sure we're fully prepared, get better each and every day, starting with today. Try to do the little things right, and once we do those things, just put together great at-bats, keep the line moving, and then I think our offense will get going for sure.
Go to Rob in the third row on your far right.
Bobby, you had mentioned with the playoffs, you identified the Yankees as a playoff team you always thought of. But for you as a kid, what was your very first memory of the postseason?
Man, I can't really remember the first. I was always watching baseball, but I remember in 14 and 15 when the Royals were doing that, how special that was. And just I was a 14-year-old kid, and just being able to remember that is really cool just to see just what that team did and kind of like the underdog story in ways. And then just seeing from my dad's experiences in 2001, he was in the playoffs with the Diamondbacks when they beat the Yankees. So it's just kind of hearing that and seeing his World Series ring was really cool. And so that's just motivation for me to kind of do what he did.
I'll stay in the same row, Bobby.
Zach Brazil, New York Post. What have you learned from watching Mahomes on the biggest stage?
Yeah, it's just whenever those big games come up, he kind of takes the next step up, and so it's just not trying to do too much, too little, but that's just how he is. He's a competitor. He wants to win, and so that's kind of how I try to approach things. I just want to win, just try to do everything I can, but really also control what I can, not try to do too much.
Then for you with the breakout season you've had, was there anything specific that kind of stood out to you about how you prepared for this season, or why you think you've burst onto the scene like you have this year?
Yeah, I just think now it's third year in the league. I think just each and every year I feel like I'm going to get better and better just with the more experience I have in the league. And so I just think it's just comes with experience, really, and just being able to be prepared, get into a good routine, know my body, and be able to control what I can each and every night.
Do a couple more, Bill, and then Jalen.
Why do you think Salvador Perez is a Hall of Famer? What makes him so great?
Just you can look at the stats. You can look at just him, just all the stuff he does on the field for the team to win. And then he's going out there each and every day. He's playing. He's helping the team defensively, offensively each and every night. And so it's just he just does it the right way too. And it's just he's been doing it for so long, and he's just so consistent with it. And it's just I just think it's a given.
What's the number one thing that has impressed you about him that we don't know about?
It's just he's the same guy each and every day. He doesn't change who he is no matter what. He could go 0 for 4 with 4 strikeouts, 4 for 4 with 4 home runs. He's the same Salvador Perez each and every day. And it's so special that he does that each day in and day out. And he did it. He was the same guy through 106 lost season, and he's the same guy through making it to the playoff season. So it's just seeing that consistency that he has each and every day, and just showing up to the field, first one to the field, last one to leave. It's just one of one.
And Jalen on your left.
Bobby, you guys have been away from home for quite a bit now. How significant is it to have your family members and everyone come on this journey with you? I know they were with you guys in Baltimore when you guys clinched.
Yeah, it's special just to be able to have fiance here, parents here, and just all the support from back home in Texas, back home in Kansas City. And so it's just really special to just kind of enjoy this with a lot more people than just myself.
Do 2 more. Peter on your right, Bobby.
You mentioned Jeter being your guy. Just have you thought at all what it's going to be like to take the same field he won a World Series on for a playoff game?
Yeah, that's pretty cool. That's probably the first time I hear that. Just pretty special. Just I'm always kind of watching his highlights, postseason highlights recently, actually, and just being able to kind of take the field that like he did is really, really special. Kind of gives me chills just kind of thinking about it.
What made him your guy?
Just the way he played the game, both on and off the field, just how he was. He was my guy, and then Pedroia was my guy. So Jeter and Pedroia were my 2 guys. That's why I wore 17 in high school and everything. And so I got those 2 jerseys hanging up on my wall still back at in my room in my parents' house. And so it's just those are just how they played the game hard, and just how they just always rise up to the occasion when needed.
15 plus 2, right? Gives you 17.
Yeah.
Very cool.
Good math.
Anything else we'll finish up with Andy.
Just real quickly, you said you were watching Jeter's postseason highlights recently. Like, how recently? Just on YouTube?
Yeah, just kind of seeing it. It was actually last night. Just looking at it, or on the train ride and stuff. Just being able to see it, just because of just how the stadium is, how the fans are. Just wanted to kind of just take it all in perspective, and then really going out there today and a workout, and then tomorrow just taking it all in.
All right, Bobby, thanks so much. Great to see
Thank
you. Michael Waka should be up in a few minutes.
All right, there's Bobby Witt. Have time for Michael Waka, but there's Bobby Witt there in New York, getting ready for Game 1 and his first ever postseason game in Yankee Stadium, where he said growing up he was a fan of Jeter, and wore number 17 in high school for Pedroia and Jeter. So Dad was a Red Sox fan, or family Red Sox fan, so he liked Pedroia, number 15, but Jeter was his guy, wore number 2. So 15 plus 2 is carry the 1, divide by the remainder, second power. It is 17, and that's why he wore 17 in high school. That's my Common Core math now. Usually it was easier, but now that's what you got to do with the Common Core math these days. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back, wrap up this hour. Kendall Gammon, we'll talk with him coming up in the 1 o'clock hour, get his thoughts on this Chiefs team, the unknown injury. Matt Ariza is kicking his butt off, and also, a couple of things that Bobby Witt said there that I took notes of what I wanted to ask Kendall Gammon about from a professional athlete standpoint. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. More Zone next. 50 Highway. Mod Pizza's got the buy one, get one, the BOGO going on. Buy one pizza, get one free. And you know how good Mod Pizza is. We've talked about it before. We've been to a couple of different locations over the last couple of months. The unlimited toppings, one price. Not only the taste, but that separates them from any other spot you go to. Unlimited toppings, it is one price for your pizza. And they've got buy one, get one. That tells me it's like almost like two pizzas, 50% off. If you buy one, you may not even want one. If you buy one, they're just going to give you one. They're just like throw it in your face, you know? It requires you to take, you have to take this one. It's a package deal. The 1 o'clock hour in Kendall Gammon, that's our package deal coming up next.
upside down. He knows exactly how many times the ball will rotate on a long snap, and he'll juggle anything you throw at him. It's Kendall Gammon in the zone. Brought to you by Crown Toyota and Crown Volkswagen. Recognized as the #1 place to buy a new or pre-owned vehicle. Visit crownautomotive.com to see the latest deals. Experience the Crown difference.
That's right, talking with Kendall Gammon here in the 1 o'clock hour today instead of the noon hour typically after some Chiefs press conference, or at least after we talk with Matt Derrick. We hang out with Kendall Gammon, and then it's a Fast Friday with Andy Reid usually around this time, but it's a Thursday for them, a Friday for us. Kendall Gammon is here with us. Did that ever confuse you when you played that, okay, we're playing on a different day, so now it's a different routine for this day? Did it ever, mesh, wait a minute, was I supposed to pick up the kids today because we're doing a Wednesday thing? What's the deal with, does that ever happen to you, or you get confused like I am?
I did not get confused. I got confused a lot of times for about a lot of different things, but not that. But generally, you just knew when to come in, but you just knew things were shifted one day or another. And oftentimes, I even remember back with Pittsburgh when we were playing some night games, we would have some practice. We would have at least one practice at the time of the game. It might be on a Thursday that we'd do it. So yeah, you know, everybody does it differently.
Yeah, Kendall Gammon is our guest. You ever experienced anything that we're sort of watching in real time with very small little nuggets of information that come out, but it isn't really anything definitive information with Rashee Rice and the injury of, all right, there's a fear of an ACL. It's not good. We hear Andy Reid say that at halftime and after the game. Then it's, well, maybe the ACL is intact. Okay, well, they're getting second opinions. They're getting more tests. Now he's going to have his knee scoped early next week to find out what's going on because of the swelling. And we're hearing those that are actual doctors that are also on Twitter that give certain analysis that are saying that, you know, they'd know if the ACL was torn or the PCL, so they don't think that's the case. There have been instances of you going in and then it is ruptured because some of the fluid and stuff, but it's really odd and weird from just 5 days now that we've been going through this, and it kind of feels like it was 2 weeks ago with Rashee Rice's injury somehow.
Yeah, definitely. And you asked if I've ever experienced that. I've got to believe I did over 15 years, but I'm not remembering something per se. But yeah, I mean, obviously, the one thing I did, I forget who I was talking with, but they're like, okay, if the ACL is torn, they'd know. They can do the test. They would know right then with it. So the fact that they're delaying some things, they obviously have some questions about things as you just said, and as you've been talking about earlier on the show. So that's that's the possible silver lining, like you talked about. But we'll see. But that's an interesting thing. There's no doubt, because it is definitely different, because I've been around a lot of guys who did have an ACL, and I mean, it was in the locker room. You knew they knew. You could tell what was going on. So this is definitely, there's something to it.
Yeah, it feels like there's optimism even from the players. Like Patrick Mahomes was talking with the writers a couple of days ago, and some of the word coming out from the writers are there. Like, actually, Mahomes was pretty optimistic about Rashee Rice's possibility of returning. Like, if this was cloak and dagger, if this was trying to, be purposefully obtuse or something like that from the Chiefs organization, I don't think you'd hear the players go along with company line and say that just as in general conversations. They'd know what's happening behind the scenes.
I agree. Oftentimes, a lot of things happen, and we out here want to hear what's going on in the locker room, and you just can't. But when you're in the locker room, things like this, you know real quickly what's going on, even if they're trying to keep it quiet. Somehow it gets out. I mean, people talk inside the locker room. So, I mean, you don't know for sure, but as you mentioned, those reporters with Patrick, if they have some optimism, then there's, I mean, where there's smoke, there's fire. I mean, who knows what will come of it?
Right.
But certainly there's a chance.
Yeah, and I should also point out that was it? I think it was a couple of years ago with Von Miller. That
I heard you talking about that.
He was injured, and they thought maybe it was just a bad strain. Sprain. It's not a muscle, but a bad sprain as one of the ligaments. And they went in there to do the arthroscopic part and see what else, and they saw that the ACL was completely ruptured, and it was torn, and they repaired it there. And Von Miller was sedated. He went under thinking he was going to be out 4 to 5 weeks, and he woke back up. He was out for the year and just had reconstructive ACL surgery. They will sedate Rashee Rice when he goes to the that's been some of the reports that are out there. Diana Rossini reporting that they'll sedate him. They'll go through the scope to see what's in there. you have to sedate him because if there's something going on in the knee, then they'll repair it right then. There's essentially an understanding between the player and the doctor that everybody before they go in is all on the same page. If this or this or this happens, we will do this.
Right.
Are we good? Okay, here's the
well, you keep talking also about being sedated, and I guess sometimes you cannot be, but there better be a good understanding with me that if you're doing anything with a knife near my knee, even if you're just kind of looking at things, I need to be sedated. I don't want to play that.
Yeah.
I can't even imagine. I know some guys. I know one guy who had surgery where they did a nerve block and whatever, and he was conscious.
Wow.
To what degree, I don't know. Some doctors may come in and say I'm full of it, but you know what? At least I've been hit in the head a lot of times, and that's my excuse. But the person who I know did it makes sense.
Yeah, and that's why like the scope that he has. Not only will we get information of what happens, like we could find out that day that he's done for the year because they might have performed surgery to repair the ACL, or meniscus, or cartilage, or PCL, or anything else that might be damaged that's in there with the knee injury, and get an extent of what is probably a bone bruise that'll go along with it. But that'll be the least of their concerns if they're having ACL injury. That bone bruise will be healed before before he's ready to go with the ACL. But hopefully they go in there. And it's a grade 1 or grade 2, sprain. I had mentioned Puka Nacua has a grade 2 PCL strain, and he's not out for the year.
Right.
He's going through rest and rehab. He's put on IR. He'll be out for a while, but he's planning on returning later this year. If that's the case, great. Then let's see what happens, and there's some optimism that's along with that. How do you think they move forward with this? I don't know that they're going to go out and trade, but as an offense, is it more 2 tight end sets? Is it using Xavier Worthy in different ways and trying to get, taking some deep shots, maybe even more deep shots, like Travis Kelce, just having to get him involved, force-feeding Travis Kelce to get him involved, maybe relying more on the running game? Like, how do you think moving forward without Rashee Rice, we know for at least 4 games, how do they do that?
I think it's all of the above, and you just see what works. But if anybody's going to have a chance to do it, Andy Reid, to me, one of the all-time best play callers in the game of football and how he deals with things. But I do think you start to see more tight ends being used and whatnot. And I think also you're bound to see more of Xavier Worthy trying to get over the top, whether he catches or not. It's great when you catch a 52-yard touchdown, but even if you just put the fear of God in them, that you might go over there. Now, all of a sudden, your tight ends can work there in the middle. Noah Gray, and, of course, Travis Kelce had his little bit of his coming-out game last week early on when they still had Rashee. So we'll see. I was pleasantly surprised also. You mentioned Kareem Hunt. And it's pretty clear that he doesn't have the long speed, and I'm not even sure he has the burst that he used to, which makes sense at age 29. But Big Red talked about it. I mean, he was seeing the windows. He was getting to the right holes. I noticed that during the game. And, he averaged 4 or 5 yards. Well, it's probably going to be 4, 5, 7, 4, 3, 1. It's not going to be 25 and 2 or whatever. You're just not going to have those long ones. But if you can do that, I think that's huge for the Chiefs right now in terms of what they have. I don't think they give up on Carson still, but I think they'll pull the reins back a little bit, getting that second fumble. I mean, that's a big deal. I think it's a bigger deal than Andy made of it also. But that's also, I think, a beauty of Andy Reid also is even when he's doing that stuff, he's going to do that behind the scenes, and he's not going to call anybody out in public.
Yeah, it's a good point. I was actually going to ask you that. You've been around Andy Reid a lot, and enough to know, like, we know what he's saying publicly, what's going on behind the scenes with the running back room.
Well, and that's one of the many things about him. I just have so much respect for him as a person and how he treats people. And he was always so very respectful to everybody, not just the players, but former players like myself. It didn't, and, I don't mean this in a bad way. Didn't have a clue who I was. I mean, kind of, but other guys that are around there. He just has a lot of respect for the guys that played the game. He understands how hard it is. Of course, he played the game at the college level. So I don't believe he ever demeans anybody. I mean, now he's a communicator, and he demands you do it a certain way, and if you don't, you just move on, and that's not personal. You're not criticizing the person. You're just criticizing the action of whether you can or can't do it.
How much does that matter in an NFL locker room if you played the game or not?
Huge.
I'm just saying if you played the game, because I know in Major League Baseball, it's a big deal. In a clubhouse, if there's a manager in there that didn't play the game at a higher level, it's like, dude, you're telling me what to do, and you've never done this before. in the NFL, it doesn't seem as big of a deal as maybe culturally it is in a clubhouse in Major League Baseball.
I would agree. I think you probably have more leeway for coaches to maybe yell and go after you a little bit more if they did play the game. If they didn't play the game and they're going after these things, then those words of okay, I mean, when's the last time you did this? As a senior in high school, or what's going on here? So I do think that plays into it some.
Yeah. Kendall Gammon is our guest. He's presented by Crown Toyota, Crown Volkswagen. Go to crownautomotive.com. Matt Ariza, the first couple of weeks, they had some touchbacks, and Dave Tope talked about it early on, a couple of touchbacks. I mean, under-discussed part of this 4-0 team, and the fact that this Chiefs team is winning some closer games, and the defense has been really good outside of the first, that opening possession for opposing teams. Matt Ariza has been really good in pinning teams down inside the 10-yard line to the point that the Chargers fair caught a ball at the 4-yard line, 4 or 5-yard line, and I'm like, wow, flashbacks of the Chiefs when they would fair catch a ball inside the 5.
Right.
And then they didn't fair catch it, and it was down at the 1.
Yeah, right.
And I was, we're doing Sad Fans, Chargers, Sad Fans, and Reddit.
I love those things. Yes. They're so great.
And neither of these made it, but just reading it, like people talk about, you fair caught that at the 5-yard line,
right?
And then later on in the game going, anybody still mad about fair catch at the 5-yard line because they downed it at the 1 this time?
Yeah.
That weapon, like we knew he was good, like from the reports, but that weapon is going to come in handy if the Chiefs' offense doesn't get rolling, and this is going to be a ball control and defensive team and field position because he's been really good after the first week.
Yeah, I heard you guys had Dave Tobe earlier and his some of his words and talking about, I think he had a 50-yard net, 50-yard average, and that's pretty hard to do. I think 4 inside the 20.
Yeah.
When you do things like that, I mean, I forget what the stats are, but a team driving more than 80 yards for a touchdown is very, very low. So when you get that field position inside the 20, inside the 10, or even inside the 5, man, that bodes well, because now if you don't give up chunks of yardages, you have an 8, 9, 10, 12 play drive. And ultimately, even the best offenses will shoot themselves in the foot a little bit if you have to make that many plays. Because I think the big thing is how many times offensively or defensively do you get to third down in a drive to keep it going, to stay on the field or get off the field. And when you're starting that far back, it's huge.
Well, and also like if you're converting 60% of your third downs. Okay, if you got 3 on one drive,
exactly,
probably not converting all 3.
No, exactly right. Yeah, absolutely. And the other thing about Ariza also is, let's not forget that he jumps in. He's part of that operation for the field goal.
Yes.
And Harrison Butker and what's going on there. And we know, I think still, as I say it all the time, I haven't looked at it, but I think the average margin of victory is still below a touchdown. So if that's the case, then extra points and field goals are more important than ever. So having that going on also is important.
Visiting with Kendall Gammon, there were a couple, before we get your thoughts on this Saints matchup coming up on Monday, there were a couple of things that Bobby Witt brought up in his press conference getting ready for the divisional series and going to Yankee Stadium to face off against the Yankees. But he was asked a couple of times about Patrick Mahomes, your relationship with Patrick Mahomes. You've seen him in the playoffs. Are there conversations? What do you learn from him? And a couple of things that he said. I want to start with this one. And he said, one of the things that he's learned from Mahomes is it's the work you do before the game, that you put in the work before the game, and then you just go and play during the game, because once the game starts, it's sort of like the haze in the barn to a degree. What do you think of that sort of assessment of when the game's going on, you're just simply going to be playing the game? There's not a whole lot of, like we talk about sometimes as Little League coaches, like coach during practice, play the game.
Right.
Coach during practice, play the game.
Yep.
And Bobby Witt saying that's one of the things he's learned from Patrick is you do the work before the game. When the game gets there, you go play.
Yeah, I think maybe it was Vince Lombardi that said, everybody wants to win on Sunday. It's the will to prepare during the week that gets you ready, or even going back to the off season, the preseason, and everything. So yeah, it is. Everybody wants to win on Sunday, but how much work have you put? How much time have you put in? And guys that are at the top of their game, like a Patrick Mahomes, going back, I remember Tony Gonzalez, guys like that, put so much work into it. Trent Green, they put so much time into it. So there's a reason they're good. I mean, they have the skills, but they've got more than that.
No, I've told the story about Tony Gonzalez when I first started, covering the team and, even as like an intern and being around the Chiefs. one of the things that stood out to me, and just being, a naive football fan that was never around like the practices or the locker rooms or anything, after the practice was over, guys are going in and they're going to shower, and Tony Gonzalez is on the jugs machine, doing the
always
fake running, boom, turn around, getting the ball. And everybody else is walking in, and he's staying out there and working on the jugs machine, doing different things, catching one hand, catching sideline. And I'm thinking, like, dude, you're the best tight end in the game. You don't have to do that. And then it was like, oh, that's why he's the best tight end in the game.
Right.
That's why. Okay, that dummy. Yeah, right. Of course, he doesn't have to do it. But if he didn't do it, he wouldn't be Tony Gonzalez. Right? He wouldn't be a guy that had questionable hands his rookie year and then didn't drop anything the rest of his career and had as good a hands as you could get, because everybody's done with practice, but the Hall of Famer, one of the greatest that ever lived, is staying out there late while other guys are like, yeah, I'm going to go shower and go home.
Yeah, Will Shields was like that also, working on his footwork and his hand work and things like that. And that's what separates it. I've had the good fortune to play with a lot of Pro Football Hall of Famers, and those guys, you see the work they put in. They have God-given a talent, but then their mindset, it's intentional, it's persistent, and they do it over and over again. The focus, the commitment, everything there is just huge.
Yeah. Kendall Gammon is our guest, presented by Crown Toyota, Crown Volkswagen. Go to crownautomotive.com. Bobby Witt mentioned this about learning something from Patrick Mahomes, and I don't know how you balance the two, so I'll ask you how you can balance these. He said when it comes to postseason play, football, he was asked about Patrick Mahomes and what Mahomes would say or talk about. And, you take the intensity up a notch. Like, you are more intense when you're going to that next level, but you don't try to do too much.
Right.
I'm like, okay, so how do you take the intensity up without trying to do too much? I feel like, as someone who never played at that level, obviously, if that intensity is up that high, it would almost be natural to try to do too much because you're so intense and focused and involved in the game. But that's got to how much I would guess that comes with like experience, that you can take your intensity up, but not try to do too much. Just play your game, but you are more intense because you've got to be, because it's playoff time, it's Super Bowl, it's championship series, etc.
I think that's right, and it is tough. I think sometimes it's been described also as if you can just continue to play at the level and understand that a lot of people are going to get tense and play down a level, and if you just keep doing what you're doing. I know for me, I played in 8 or 9 playoff games over my career, a Super Bowl, a couple AFC championships. And I always was the mindset was always, okay, this is still just a football game. I just have to continue what I'm doing. I can't press and try to do more. Now, it's a little bit different when your job is snap ball, get crap knocked out of you. But all the same, as long as you do that and you keep getting up and making sure that you're consistent, I think that's the big thing. I think it's a lot of talk, and I get it, but in general, just the more experience you have, the calmer you can be. The heart rate doesn't get up as high, and you don't press.
Yeah, and Bobby Witt talked about it. I guess I don't think he's exaggerating or saying these things after the fact. I think there's probably something to it. But he was asked after the game about that moment with 2 outs on Tuesday, and he comes through with a base hit. The moment with 2 outs on Wednesday, tie game, and he comes through with the base hit. It was an infield single, but he gets the base hit. And we saw so many Orioles players, in the moment, shrink or strike out or swing at bad pitches or watch a fastball go right down the middle, sort of maybe in their head. And Bobby was asked about those moments, and he goes, well, that's the fun part. Like that's when it's fun. Like I'm not going to be like, stressed. Like, that's fun. That's when it's supposed to be fun, those moments. Now, maybe it's after the fact he came through on both opportunities there.
Right.
But I kind of wonder if one leads to the other. Like the in the moment saying, this is fun, man. This is great. This is awesome. This is really enjoyable.
Well, it is, because you know that you're there to win, obviously, and in the playoffs it means so much more. I snapped several, game-winning field goals, and, I didn't kick it through, but I put it back there. That's part of it. You get to prove that you can handle the pressure, and that is really big as a player to push that confidence over to the coaches for them to see that, when the game gets big and things are there, you're the same person. You can do what you've been told to do, what you've been coached to do, what you've done all year long, and you can rise to that occasion.
Yeah, and it's almost like, people talk about a clutch gene. Are you clutch or you're not clutch? Sometimes it feels like the clutch is, did you just not let the moment get too big
Exactly.
for you? Can you still be your player?
Yes.
What do you think happens on Monday night? Chiefs and Saints. The Chiefs are now, where's my latest line for the Chiefs? They are 5.5
It started around 8, right?
favorites.
Somewhere in there?
Yes, they're 5.5 now.
Okay.
5.5 point favorites.
Yeah, I've been saying I think 21-13. I think it's there. Again, it's almost like Vegas knows what they're doing. So I'm starting to stay around the spread to begin with. I mean, now what it does after that has no bearing on things, but we'll see. I think coming into Arrowhead, Monday Night Football is a beautiful thing. It's tough to win.
Yep. Kendall Gammon, Crown Toyota, Crown Volkswagen. Go to crownautomotive.com. Presents Kendall each and every Friday. You're the man. Appreciate it, sir. Enjoy the football and also the baseball.
Yes.
And we'll talk with you next Friday. Appreciate it, sir.
Sounds good.
Absolutely. There's Kendall Gammon. We'll take a timeout. We'll come back. We'll get some sad fans coming up next. series. They lost game 1 10-3 or 10-4. They won game 1 5-0. They lost game 3 4-3. The runs 7, 8, 9, 7 of those runs that were given up by guys in the bullpen that are not on the team anymore. So 7 of the 14 runs that the Yankees scored in that series, because Lugo didn't give up a run, Reagans gave up 2 earned runs, and MacArthur and Stratton gave up 7 runs, and then Chris Bubich gave up 2 unearned runs because they were both ghost runners in that series because they lost in 11 innings in Game 3. Well, Stratton and MacArthur, and the Royals had a 4-3 lead before MacArthur and Stratton got in the game, and they lost 10-4. So we'll see what happens. Lighting it up easily, the bullpen. Dylan, who's lighting it up for you?
Mine, I'm going to go away. I'm sticking baseball, but I will go away from the Royals. Just last night, watching Pete Alonso with basically their last breath steal the hearts of the entire stadium in Milwaukee, and like the empty feeling of that pitcher, like in that moment,
doubt,
like looking, because when he's seeing it, he's like, please God, hit the top of the wall. Like he is praying it just hits any part of that wall and stays in play. Pete Alonso, man, home run derby champ, back to back. Lighting it up, man.
And you throw the pitch, he connects.
Well, you hang it.
Your heart has to sink because you hear him scream after he hits it.
Yes.
He hits it.
And I was telling you the other day, one of the underrated thing about postseason baseball is when the dead silence of the crowd, but you can hear the opposing dugout.
Yep.
It's almost more like nerve-wracking than the opposite.
Oh, I mean, the view of when that ball left the yard, and then Alonso was rounding first and heading to second. It is already, and they took the view of the third base dugout of the Mets. And how many players were like out on the grass
on the
area?
field,
Like almost, you're right. Almost like wow, they're everywhere out there, man.
Because that's demoralizing.
Yeah, and that's playoff baseball, because if that was game 97 of 162, they'd be in the dugout cheering and everything. Like, yes, all right, that's a lead. They wouldn't be jumping over the railing.
We're hearing 2 bleep yas as they're rounding the base, too.
Exactly, like that excited, man, because you went from your season being over to now you got the lead.
Mets being the Mets.
Right.
Yeah.
And they've been anything but the Mets as of late, because they have turned it around. They made the playoffs, and now they're going and facing off against the Phillies in a 5-game series.
Every single series is a division rivalry, and even the one that isn't is an 80s rivalry.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great point. It's a great point. And 3 of the 4 teams remaining in the American League are from the American League Central.
There's a great tweet where they put the logos over 3 cops of the SWAT team trying to bust in the door, like the Yankees, and it says the AL Central has you surrounded, basically.
Well, it's weird because I thought the AL Central was bloated because of beating up on the White Sox.
It was Mick. Great tweet. Was maybe the White Sox are better than we thought because they had to play the toughest division in baseball 52 times.
That's a great point. The White Sox might have been a 500 team in a different division, but it's just what you got to do. It's like the old American League East when you had to play each team in your division 19 times, and if you were a bad team there in the worst team in the American League East, you're like, man, I got to play the Yankees, got to play the Red Sox, got to play maybe it was the Rays, the Orioles, but all right, that's who's lighting it up. Let's play some sad fans here. So we got sad fans from both the Chargers and the Orioles. And I want to give a shout out to Adam Stilley, that on Twitter is the one that sent me the tweet on Wednesday after the Royals won and said, hey, can we get a sad fans Orioles? And I said, you know what? I think we can. But here is sad fans Chargers edition, and then we'll get to the Orioles in a little bit. But sad fans Chargers right now. And now, things Chargers fans said on Reddit. Our offensive line is the best player for the Chiefs in this game. They just called holding on the Chiefs. I'm assuming that ref's family will file a missing persons report tomorrow. Nobody's seen him since. No team has ever won a Super Bowl with a Bosa on their team. Reply, good news since he's hardly ever on our team anyway. Don't get hope, 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 don't get hope. If you just took Travis Kelce's stats against the Chargers, he'd go down as the all-time greatest tight end. This is the least fun I've ever had watching a Chargers offense. Reply, last season has entered the chat. The way Tony Romo talks about Patrick Mahomes, it's like he's trying to get hired in adult films.
There's one of these every week.
Every week there's a Romo and Collinsworth. The refs have really played incredible defense today.
And there's always one of those.
This offense is terrible. Terrible, terrible. But hey, at least we got a fourth rounder for Keenan Allen. Running plays 75% of the time, except 4th and 1 on the 3-yard line. Way to Charger, boys. Patrick Mahomes is like a Fallout character with a max luck stat. Absolute BS happens wherever he goes.
And I love it.
Greg Roman. Sex is great, but have you tried running the ball on 2nd down and 10?
Some blue chew.
We're currently playing with 2 dead guys and 3 traffic cones on offensive line. Chargers playing the Chiefs and going for it on 4th down and passing when an easy 3 points is right there. Name a better duo. I'll wait. 10 points last week, 10 points this week. Greg Roman has all the creative depth of a shot glass.
I've never heard that before.
And now the runner-up to things Chargers fans said on Reddit. Every defensive possession just shows how incompetent Staley was. That guy shouldn't be allowed near a football field. Reply, water boys are still in need. Reply, you really trust Staley with water? The guy looks like he drank lead. And now, the winner of things Chargers fans said on Reddit. 54-yard touchdown pass to Xavier Worthy. Fuck you, Buffalo.
Love it.
Just direct and to the point. Direct and to the point. You know what? Let's sneak in a break here so we don't get too far behind. And we'll come back with Orioles. The Orioles sad fans, which, let me tell you, the Orioles fans were much more venom connected to their Reddit posts. I'll tell you that. We'll do some Orioles sad fans. We'll give a little bit of a prediction of what we think may happen in this series. Got the cuts before the show is over. No Chiefs prediction. We'll do that on Monday. But we continue rolling along on this Friday edition of The Zone. More right after this.
group is like an entire team of Chris Davises after he had his Adderall taken away. Sweet. Awesome job, Henderson. Now go get you a Lego set from your parents and have fun this offseason.
I think they're saying he's a child.
The towels they give away at these postseason games are not just for waving, but also for us wiping away our tears. Colton Cowser striking out on a ball that hit him with the bases loaded may be the dumbest shit I've ever seen.
Might be.
Bobby Witt will forever torture us for not taking him first. Book it.
Hopefully.
I hope so. So far, so good.
What the hell happened to Adley? A complete shell of himself the latter part of the season. He looked like a racehorse ready to be euthanized.
What does that look like?
I don't know.
Maybe Brandon Hyde turned Moneyball off before the end. Can someone tell Jennifer Garner to shut the up about that credit card? I can't emphasize enough how low my expectations were going into the series, and somehow this still surprises me. Now, how many gummies to consume to forget this whole thing? Reply, yes. Hey, at least the Ravens still got a few more months till they disappoint us.
It's true.
As far as I'm concerned, a portal to hell can open up beneath Kansas City. Reply, I have family there, and I still agree. I had tickets for tomorrow's game. Pain. Reply, you actually picked the best game out of the three. I looked it up. You can't spell P down your legs without O's.
It's true.
Now we have two teams in Baltimore that disappear in the playoffs. Reply, against Kansas City. Reply, hey, at least they're consistent. Hey, to the positive, I saved $852 on playoff tickets. On the offensive side, thank you to Cedric Mullins, and Cedric Mullins only. Everyone else can go themselves. When I die, all I ask is that the Orioles be my pallbearers so they can let me down one last time.
Classic.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
At least the Ravens have the dignity to win a playoff game before getting embarrassed by KC at home.
That is true.
I can't even say the Royals here. I mean, us. We could be playing against 26 life-size cardboard cutouts that look like ball players, and we'd still be losing. If Bobby Witt is so good, how come he doesn't try to hit the ball 700 feet on every pitch? Loser mentality. Bobby Witt aims to get on base, while we aim to get all the bases in every swing. He'll never make it anywhere with that soft approach, while we'll get all the babes with our big swings. Seriously, MLB, you think I'm going to disseminate this game?
That's awesome.
And now the runner-up to things Orioles fans said on Reddit. I hate the Chiefs and their ability to constantly get on base with bloops and luck. It was the same the last time around. Reply, you mean the Royals? Reply, f*** you. Reply, good talk. And now the winner of things Orioles fans said on Reddit. The haters said we couldn't do it. And they were correct. Honestly, great call from the haters.
There you go. Sad fans, Orioles edition. Let's hope we have a Yankees edition coming up very soon. We bring in a man who is around some Yankees right now, at least in Yankee Stadium, talking to some Royals in the clubhouse as well, doing work. Mick Schaefer joining us here, KSHB 41 sports director. Mick, how the hell are you, man?
What's up, boys? I'm good here in the Big Apple. I was in Manhattan, Kansas last weekend.
Oh.
Now I'm in Manhattan, New York.
Yeah. Is there another
Manhattan? But watch out next weekend.
If there's another Manhattan in Europe, you keep heading Manhattan's east. So
Keep going east, a couple time zones
right.
away. Yeah, I'm all for it.
Manhattan, England. There's got to be one of those, and somebody's got to be playing some sort of a sport there. Could
Probably
be cricket,
soccer.
croquet, whatever, soccer, football, whatever it might be. I'm
Crochet.
not sure.
Could be
They
crochet.
could crochet, just like Sterling likes. All right, Mick, we brought you on so you can give your prediction live. You're there. You're around the boys. All right, they're playing some ball and they're talking to you. So, do you get a sense, get a feel? If you got a prediction on these 5 games, who wins the series and in how many games?
let's go Royals. Let's go in 4 games because I want to come back here for Game 5. I'm already missed one of my son's high school football games tonight. I don't have to miss another next Friday. But it's funny that usually in the locker room and the podium, the pressers, they say the same thing about, hey, the game could go either way. It could be low scoring, it could be high scoring, whatever. Depending on the team, the day, it's baseball, it gets weird, all that stuff. But Vinny told me point blank, he's like, I look for Bobby Witt Jr. to be on first base a lot this series. He goes, there was talk about it in Baltimore about why are they pitching to him, and I have the feeling that the Yankees are not going to pitch to him. They're going to pitch around him. They're going to put him on first base, and this is going to be a big series for me. It's going to be a big series for me. Can I do my job moving him over? And he went on for a couple minutes, and I have followed up with like, hey, when you see Bobby out there, first, second, or third, whatever, do you have more pep in your step? He's like, look, that's the toughest thing about Bobby when you're playing against him. He can turn around and walk into a double or a triple just like that, just with his speed and how much that can change the game. But he said point blank, it's a rule in baseball, don't let the best player on the other team beat you. And the Orioles did that. He goes, I don't think the Yankees are going to do that. So because of that, that's going to be on my shoulders because there's going to be guys on base in front of me.
No, that's it's awesome. And that is on Mick's Twitter account. You just tweeted that out before you came on with us and talking with Vinny. I read just the headline there, but didn't get a chance to hear the things that he was talking about with, expecting Bobby to be pitched around. I expect that to be the case, too, because Baltimore did not, and that was a lot of complaints about that. It was about pitching to Bobby Witt.
He got to one of the best pitchers in baseball, pitching great that day, who had great stuff, who had got a lot of soft contact, who had been cruising at that point.
Who had already got him twice.
Who got him twice.
Yeah.
And he got to him, and that was enough to win the game.
That's right.
So that's what he's hinting at, whether it's Garrett Cole or, Rodon or whoever on the mound. He was excited, right? When he was delivering that, it's like, I'm ready for this. Because I asked him, like, hey, where'd that one rank, the other day in Game 2?
Yeah.
It's the big stage. It's your first hit back, right? All the stuff you'd been through in September getting back from that injury, and you give your team the lead in the playoffs where that one ranked. He's like, oh, it's good. It's good. I just wanted to do my job. He kept describing it. Like, that's just – there are guys in base in front of me. It's my job to at the very least get him over and at best get him in.
We'll see what happens. We've got you. Royals in 4. Mick, enjoy it, man. Have some fun, and we'll see you back here soon.
Can't wait. We'll see you guys.
Absolutely. There's Mick Schaefer. I got the text back from Sterling. Sterling is taking the Royals in 5. I'm going to take the Royals in 4. Dylan?
I'll take them in 5.
Got them in 5. The Royals go to Yankee Stadium. You and Sterling go to Yankee Stadium and win Game 5 against the Yankees. I think they get it in 4 and avoid going back to New York. I think they win 3-1. I'm not sure which game they lose. Maybe it's tomorrow and then they win 3 straight, whatever. I guess it doesn't even matter which game they lose, but they got to Carlos Rodon in that series they played earlier, in September. They got 4 runs on Carlos Rodon
and
in that game.
Familiarity because he's been with the White Sox forever helped.
That's true. Yeah, maybe it did that, that day because, again, they put 4 runs in 6 innings. Rodon went 6 innings, and he struck out 9, but he gave up 4 runs while he was in the game there. And, Lugo and Reagan's combined for 11 innings, giving up a total of 2 earned runs against the Yankees there in Yankee Stadium. Reagan's will be pitching in Yankee Stadium. Lugo will be pitching at Kauffman Stadium. Waka will be pitching tomorrow in Yankee Stadium. I've got him in 4. Do we want to do cuts? Or we have time for even 1 or 2? I know we got sad
sneak
fans.
in a couple, and I'll leave Sterling's out because he's not here to defend himself,
true,
and it's his wedding weekend, and then he'll be here next week for Sterling's.
That's fine, yeah. But we got sad fans Chargers and sad
You're
fans
right.
Orioles. So
I got a couple cuts.
We've had some fun this hour, and Kendall Gammon as well. And we heard from Mick, and Mick gave us firsthand knowledge of what Vinny Pasquantino was doing in approaching the series, of expecting them to face Vinny with Bobby Witt on first a lot. Let's hope that's the case. Let's sneak in a couple of cuts before we call this thing a day here. Should let you know I'm going to be at Mod Pizza today, 4 to 6 in Lee Summit, Shipman Road location. Come out and say hi. Buy one, get one pizzas at Mod Pizza in Lee Summit. All right, Dylan, let's sneak in a couple of cuts here before we're done.
I do have to tell you, Anthony Richardson told us that you were cooler than he thought he was.
Listen, He told me his mom is 8 days older than I am. So there's no chance in the world that he thinks I'm cool. So
That's true. That's exactly right. Kids don't think their parents or people their parents' age are cool. That's true.
What an example for us to be with every single day. Bob Uecker. No doubt. I peed my pants!
I peed my pants! They thought they were going to be doing that, popping that champagne last night. That was rough. That was too bad. But we heard that earlier this week. Go ahead. One more?
No, I mean, when I saw the replay, I felt like that I hit Rashid.
Yeah.
Can't believe it.
I know. We dumped Patrick for the first time ever.
It's wild.
Yeah. I mean, somebody woke up the wrong mother bleeper that day because he dropped an S-bomb at the podium. That doesn't typically happen. All right. The program's got you next. They'll be at Mod Pizza in Lee Summit 4 to 6 today. Come say hi.